I can see it.
Okay, cool. So I just went through Amazon and I sort of based this off of my own personal tool set. But then again, my own personal tool set is biased towards like my job, so it's all
Hmm.
aircraft maintenance oriented. So as a result, like I have some shit that nobody else would have, like speed handles, and I have shit that everybody else has. Like I don't have shit everybody else has, like metric. So like there's almost no aircraft that have
Okay.
metric. So like now I'm having to reconsider and buy metric shit. So all right, so you have basic tools. You don't have really room for a toolbox, but you can make some room for a toolbox. You're going to do house maintenance and car maintenance. Okay. I don't know dick about car. I don't know dick about house maintenance. Car maintenance is somewhat similar to aircraft maintenance, but it's more almost to think exclusively metric. So it'll be up to you how if you want to bias it more metric oriented, 50-50, whatever. Um,
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing is go metric. Because I feel like most of my stuff will be. I'm trying to even think about what around the house. You know,
mhm.
no idea. Like, I don't think house is going to be the driver. I think that
Yeah.
car is going to be the main thing.
If you get into motorcycle stuff, some motorcycle stuff uses British Standard, which is incredibly annoying.
Okay.
And if you ever find yourself owning a private jet made by the Hawker Corporation, then that also will be in British Standard. Um, but yeah, so I kind of split this into three categories. I guess I was gonna do like a tier list, like the Zoomer way of doing shit, but I really didn't feel like taking pictures, and it probably would have became incomprehensible anyway. So I just kind
Yeah,
of
that's fine.
I started with like essentials, so like what I think you must have, and then
Okay.
nice to have slash extras. So this would be like more specialty applications, and then power tools are their own thing. And then I include air tools with power tools. It's basically anything that's not a hand tool is a power tool, in my opinion.
Okay.
Some people obviously like power tools are going to be electricity based, but like shop air, in my opinion, is. Now I'm a little bit more like hand tool biased, because a lot of like our stuff is like we don't use shop air as much as you would think. But
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, you'll see. I don't want to. I'm kind of retarded. So like I'm gonna get a little tangential, and hopefully I don't get too off track. Like if I'm just start rambling,
Fine.
just let me know. So essentials, obviously screwdrivers. I put metric and SAE sockets. SAE is the like proper term for like imperial or standard, I guess. Just not metric. And then
All right. So I've got a couple socket sets. They're the cheapos like Cobalt
yeah,
and whatever else. Right now they work, but
there's
is
nothing
there a
wrong with.
reason to worry
Yeah, no, there's
about?
nothing wrong with
Okay.
Cobalt. Like if you have sockets, you don't need to throw your sockets out right now and go buy new sockets.
Yeah.
Um, I made this list as if somebody has no tools and like they want a tool thing that will cover just about anything they can encounter. I think, and a lot of like building up a tool list is running into a problem and either breaking something because you didn't have the right tool or not being able to do something because you didn't have the right tool.
Okay.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of like there's a lot of that little like gathering the stuff up over time list. It's very rare for somebody to be like, I know everything I fucking need and I'm gonna drop 14 grand on a tool set. Like, granted, Snap on is like if you're in a profession, Snap on is absolutely gonna try to make you do that. And some people do that, but I think in my opinion, you end up buying a lot of shit you don't use. And I bought a lot of shit I thought would be useful that I didn't use. So this is like what I would buy if I had nothing. And I
Okay.
Yeah, if I was doing it professionally, there are certain things that I would go fancy on, but that is entirely personal preference, in my opinion. Like it's not required. There
Okay.
are like a handful of tools I think that you can only get off Snap-on that I think are worth it. Luckily, some of those are more like their patents ran out, so they're commonly available now. But anyway, so you need screwdrivers, obviously, metric and SAE sockets. I would in every way possible try to get 12 point. Like if you are buying a new socket, I would try to get 12 point over 6 point. Um, I don't see a downside to it. I mean, I guess the argument for some people is that 6 point grabs the nut better, therefore it's more secure and it's less likely to slip. But for me professionally, like one of the first things I got told when I started doing maintenance was like, why do you own 6-point sockets? Like someone literally told me to throw my 6-point sockets out. And they were kind of right because like a lot of stuff, at least in aviation, is like you'll run into a 12-point nut. So like a 12-point socket can work on a traditional 6-point nut. A 6-point socket cannot work on a 12-point nut. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of that works. And I would have kids sometimes who just bought like the basic set. They would come and be like, I don't have a 12-point whatever such and such size. Like, can I borrow yours? Like, yeah. But I would just say like if you only have 6 points now and you're only doing like home shit, like yeah, maybe you don't need to rush out and buy a 12-point socket set. But I would definitely like if you're buying sockets in the future, prioritize the 12-point socket.
Okay.
And then obviously in terms of ratchets and ratchet accessories, you have three major sizes. You have quarter drive, 3/8 drive, and half-inch drive ratchets. So like you're gonna run into extensions in for all those sizes, and then you're gonna run into ratchets based on all those sizes, and you're gonna run into like adapters that go up and down. So that was the other thing I have. So I said you should have all three of those sizes available to you, at least one each. And then same for the extensions. You should have an extension set that matches those, and then adapters up and down. Now the reason you want adapters is because like say all you have is a quarter, 3/8, and half-inch drive, right? And you have
Yep.
say you have a bolt that you're trying to drive, like a bolt that you're trying to drive through a piece of furniture, like a leg of a piece of furniture, right? So there's a bolt head on one end and a nut on the other. And it's like, okay, cool, you could put a wrench on the other side and just hold the nut and just drive the bolt. Or you could get two ratchets and just dual ratchet it and it goes faster. So it's like, that's a case of something where it's like, you don't need to have that, like a wrench works, but it makes your life easier.
Okay.
And my take on it, like I know the traditional saying is like buy a shitty tool first, wait for it to break, and then buy the fancy tool because then it shows that you use it enough. I don't think that's a good set of advice. I think it's good for some things, like especially if you don't have a whole lot of money. But if you can afford to buy even moderately better quality off the bat, I would do so.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, so like all right, in a ratchet from Dollar General and a ratchet from Snap-on are doing the exact same job, right? The difference is if the ratchet from like you know what I mean, the ratchet from Dollar General might blow up, it might skip, it might do whatever. And in like in my head, I mean that's not to say that Snap-on one can't do that, but it's less likely. It's just like firearms. I tell people there's no buying reliability. You're reducing the chance of having a lemon, right? So you're buying.
Yeah.
You're paying extra money to bias the statistics in your favor. So if you have the better ratchet and you are ratcheting in your car's engine bay, you really don't want the tooth to fucking slip because that probably means you're punching something. And if you're punching, the something you end up punching is like a fucking electrical connector. Now maybe you have to go buy a new electrical connector because you snapped it off. Like, you know what I mean? So it's quality can equal safety, which is why I put like this down here. And then same thing goes for the right tool for the right job. So like, I know a lot of, especially old timers, are just like, I don't need to buy that. I can do it this way. I'm like, cool, yes, you can do it this way, but I'm not going to make my life harder unless I have to. So to a certain extent, I will pay money to make my life easier. And same thing here. A specialized tool will cost more, but is more efficient for the task, and this can save cramping or reduce rework, mistakes like things breaking, stuff like that. I do think the whole if you borrow a tool more than 3 times, buy it is somewhat true. Like if it's something really specific, maybe not. But in most cases, you're just like, you know, whatever. It's like if somebody borrowed my adapter like 3 times, and be like, dude, you can't go out and buy yourself an adapter. Like, what's going on?
Hmm.
And then this maybe is a little bit controversial, but it's like if it costs more to rent it twice, buy it once. So like that's really dependent. Like so like you're not gonna go like if it would cost you more to rent a floor buffer twice, buy it once. It doesn't mean you need to go out and buy a floor buffer if you're only buffing a floor once every 5 years. You know what I mean? Like maybe the storage thing doesn't work out for you, but like a lot of people will rent like band saws, shit like that. So I'm like, I mean, if you have the space, I would almost rather buy it than have to keep renting it. But That's really dependent on whether or not you have the space to store some of that stuff. Because a lot of the stuff that you're going to be renting is like bulky shit, like like rug cleaners, that type of stuff. So, um, organization and pre-planning will make or break a task. So, like, I tie this in because I think it's something that a lot of people ignore, and I tend to ignore if I'm doing work at home, unless I'm doing it. If I'm at work, I'm in like work mode, but if I'm at home, I'm doing like dumb stuff that I would not normally do at work. So I think it is prudent to invest money in organization and like planning tools, if that makes sense. So like, how do I put this? Like socket trays, organizers, shadowing, tool bags, dishes, stuff like that. Stuff that you can kind of lay stuff out so you don't lose things. You know where all your shit is. You're not tripping over stuff when you're doing stuff. It just makes everything fucking easier. And if you have these things organized and you stay diligent with it, it reduces you potentially just like having a random toolbox in your garage with just shit in random drawers, and you're just like, oh, I need a fucking 1/4-inch drive extension. Where did I put that? And it's just like, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna go to Harbor Freight and buy one. And that's how you end up with like 12 1/4-inch drive extensions.
Yeah.
So it's like that type of shit is what I would rather. I would rather put the money in on the front end, because a lot of people are like, oh wow, why are you being so fancy and like shadowing your tools? I mean, in aviation, that's not the case. That's pretty standard in aviation. But
I have no idea what that means.
Okay, so shadowing. All right, so shadowing is let me click on this. Like, this is a pretty good one. So shadowing is like you have this here. You have these like, it's like a foam tray, right? And it's multiple layers of foam, like that. So when you cut through the surface layer of the foam, it exposes the colored foam underneath. So when you pull said tool out, right, you're going to see a huge colored outline of where that tool was. So you'll know at a glance, like, hey, one of these things is not like the other. Where is that tool? And it's a big deal in aviation because you can't leave shit in airplanes. And a lot of people get that pounded into their head. But, like, it's less common in other maintenance fields. Like, and even in aviation, I've seen people who they come from, like, good old boy GA shit, and they just throw shit in a bin. And it's just like, I know where all my stuff is. Until, a customer finds a ratchet inside their airplane. Yeah, so I like shadowing. And I didn't know Gear Wrench made these. They didn't have this type of stuff when I was getting into it. But these pre-made foam trays where they do all the work for you is fantastic. Like, if I was getting into it, this is exactly what I would buy, and that's why I put it on the list. Because you can just drop this into a toolbox or whatever, and you're fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can. It might not be the most optimized use of space, but it's like they did all the fucking legwork for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right. Dumb question. It says 90 tooth. What does that mean?
Okay, so I was gonna point that out too. So when you have a ratchet, obviously there is an actual ratcheting mechanism inside the ratchet, right? So
okay, that's the number of teeth on the gear.
Yeah, the number of teeth on the gear. What that translates to in realistic terms is the amount you have to move the handle before you can ratchet it in the other direction.
Got it.
So, like, if you have a 70-tooth ratchet, you have to move that ratchet further than you would a 90-tooth ratchet in order to push it again, right? And so that can have up or downsides, right? So, like, the downside of having more teeth is the teeth probably are more fragile, right? It depends on how the people design the ratchet and what materials they use, whatever, autism. But smaller teeth, like smaller teeth, so more teeth on the ratchet means you have to move the ratchet less. And, like, some people might like, does 70 versus 90 really fucking matter? And I'm like, if you're working on a car or anything in a confined space, yes, it absolutely matters in my opinion, because having to move the ratchet 2 degrees instead of 6 degrees can mean the difference between getting a bolt on and not being able to move it at all. So, like, maybe you only have like 4 degrees to swing the fucking ratchet handle. And so if your ratchet requires 6 degrees to ratchet, you don't have a ratchet anymore. Like, you know what I mean? So you can't.
Yeah.
And then that means, like, instead of doing things the efficient way, you're going to have to figure out some type of, like, extension contraption to get into where you're at so you can still ratchet. Or you're going to have to go at it and just manually fucking turn the nut with a wrench for, like, the next 20 minutes. And then just start cursing and smashing your knuckles and shit. So, Yeah, all these are all good examples of like what like those top 4 or 5 things. So I would have
Okay.
extensions, multiple sizes like that you can put on your ratchet. The 3 different size ratchets, adapters up and down, and then these are called well we call them uniwiggles, which are like universal wiggles. So they basically allow you to um, translate force off angle, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
you put a socket on the end of it, and like say that you can't get directly on top of like whatever bolt you're trying to get to. Maybe you can only get at it from like a 30 or 40 degree angle. You put a uniwiggle on a socket, and then it allows the whole ratchet to still work. um, there's a specialty version of these where there is no plug on the other end, and it's just a raw socket, and that's better for confined spaces, which is that's in the nice to have list, which I put here, uniwiggles. um,
Okay.
and then so let's see, extensions, adapters up and
So,
down.
so this set, I mean, like, this is something that I would, based on what
Yeah.
I've got only a 3/8 drive, and I've got maybe 20 sockets total.
Okay.
So I'm like looking at it going, yeah, I could go piece together the rest of it.
Right.
I would probably just grab this set. The only thing is it's got 6 point and 12 point
Yeah.
sockets. Is it worth instead going and piecing together all 12 point sockets?
So it's going to be more expensive to do all 12 point, and I think that's obviously because there's more milling involved in the like it's more intricate milling when they cut the socket. Um,
Yeah.
Gear wrench. So I was actually trying like I don't want to say I anticipated this problem, but I looked at this set and I'm like, the only problem I have with this set is that there's 6 point in it. Um, that's a tough question for me to answer. Is it worth spending more trying to
Yeah.
piece that set together and getting 12 point versus just buying the set and being done with it? If it was me,
Yeah.
if it was me, like this is the weird part about this set is all of the big ratchets, the ones that I wouldn't care are 12 point, are fucking big. All the big ones are 12 point, and all the little ones aren't. And I would rather have all the
Yeah.
little ones be 12 point than the big ones. So, um, I don't know. I mean, like let me see if I have any more in
'Cause my other
here.
thought would be like, okay, just get this set. It's good, and if you run into an issue, you're like,
Yeah,
yeah, this small socket, I really wish it was 12 point. Then be like, all right, I'm gonna get another set of small 12 points
yeah. I would like
and
maybe
call it
just
a
just
day.
go buy that set. Yeah. Maybe I was trying to see if I found one that was all 12 point. Let me see.
Yeah, because I am a big fan of like, hey, just here's a complete set.
Yeah.
You know everything's there. It's got the shadowing in it for the case. You just drop it in and you're
And they
done.
could clearly do all 12 point because they did an all 12 point set here, but it's part of a fucking toolbox set, which I don't, maybe if you have nothing, that's a good option, but like I don't think that toolbox is going to be worth the shit, you know. And
Yeah.
I would rather have my own custom toolbox setup than whatever this is. But all the assembled parts are good. I just don't want the box. Like if I could get this without the box, I would absolutely get it. Um, Yeah, see, like they even tell you here, like 4 degree swing arc. Like that's how many degrees you have to swing it for the ratchet to ratchet. I can look real quick.
I mean, I could go search for it and then decide.
Yeah, you'd have to do
I
the
just
math.
wanted to recognize like, yeah, that's something to think about,
And keep
you
in
know.
mind, Gear Wrench too sells like because this is what when I originally got into Gear Wrench stuff, this is what I was buying because I ran into the same problem. I was like, okay, I don't want to pay for snap-on sockets because I don't. I'm like in my head, I'm like there is very few scenarios where I absolutely need a snap-on socket. Um,
Yeah.
there's maybe like some very like specific like Snap-on sometimes makes like thin-walled sockets for very like tight applications. But that's not something a homeowner or a car mechanic needs unless your car is particularly bothersome. Um, but even then, you could buy something like this, like quarter and 3/8 drive, 12 point standard and deep socket. I would make sure you get deep and shallow, which is what these are. Like I can't click. You have the deep well and then shallow or standard, whatever you want to call it. But this is a pretty decent set
Okay.
because it gives you a bunch of the different tools. I don't know what the teeth count is on the ratchets, but maybe it tells you.
So, tell me what for shallow versus deep,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
why is that important?
so
Is that
In some cases, you will be driving a nut down a long bolt, and there'll be a ton of like the shank of the bolt exposed with like a lot of thread. So the nut's getting driven way down. So you need like if you want to keep ratcheting, you need somewhere for that threaded shank to go. And um, in a shallow socket, it's just going to bottom out on the socket, and then you can't drive the nut anymore. And you're going to have to switch over to a wrench or something. So,
Hmm.
in my opinion, I like in some cases also, and I would say in confined spaces, it is easier. Like sometimes that deep well socket is the perfect distance versus a shallow on an extension. You know what I mean? Or like just
Okay.
a shallow by itself. Now, do you absolutely need it? Maybe not. I personally would buy it because I don't know. I like one. I like the standoff, and two, it's just like I don't have to think about it. You know what I mean?
Well,
Most
that's
of the
yeah,
time.
that's the thing. Most of the ones that I've gotten are deep well,
Yeah.
and I'm like, is there a reason I shouldn't use a deep well and should use a shallow well other than just fitting the tool in,
Yeah. No, not really. No.
where I need to? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Most people start with shallow, and they're like, "Why do I need a deep well?" And I'm like, I mean, you kind of don't until you run to the point where your fucking shank is hitting the shank of the bolt is just smacking into the base of your wrench, and you're just like, "Okay, I can't drive this anymore." I mean, the counter argument to that is you just get a wrench that's ratcheting and it accomplishes the same thing. But again, maybe you don't have the room to swing a wrench, but you have the room to swing a ratchet. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
it's all like relative, and a lot of maintenance is going to be like running into that fucking problem and being like, ah, shit, I need such and such, and then you finally get frustrated and you go out and buy the set of tools. Um, so let me go back to that. Yeah. So this set's pretty decent in my opinion. I don't like the way it's organized in here. I mean, I guess it works, but I would prefer actual shadowing with foam and off different colors. I mean, maybe you could paint it. Um, it's just all how much work you're willing to put in. But I prefer these. Like if I was buying this, I would be buying these pre-foam trays, and then I would buy my own toolbox and drop them in, and that way I can organize it the way I wanted. And in some cases, you could probably even cut up these trays and reorganize it. Like if you have this ratchet or wrench tray, you could probably cut it like along here and then move these around to a different spot if you need to in the drawer. Um,
Okay.
but again, I'm just getting off on a tangent. So that's my theory of it, I guess. So that covers screwdrivers. Let me look real quick. I think I had a set in here from Gear Wrench. I know I mostly pick Gear Wrench, but Gear Wrench is like my baseline set. Like if I'm not buying a throwaway tool, I'm probably buying Gear Wrench just because I
Okay.
use them a lot. I originally bought Gear Wrench as like because like I was like, hey, I don't want to buy Matco's fucking ratchets anymore. So I started buying Gear Wrench, and then I've never had an issue with Gear Wrench. Which ironically, I've probably had more issues with Matco shit than I have with Gear Wrench shit, but that's a whole nother story. Um, so this is a pretty good screwdriver set. You don't really need all of this because this includes what we would call jeweler screwdrivers, which is very fine um, scales. I would definitely get stubbies. Stubbies are more useful than people think. So I would definitely get stubbies, like a normal size, and then like a thicker size screwdriver, like impromptu pry bar or whatever you want to call it. There's Torx here. That could be useful if you're doing gun stuff, but I've almost never found a use for a Torx screwdriver. Torx screwdriver, I should say. I would just, I don't know. It's up to you. I mean,
Yeah, I've generally I have for the ones that I've needed, I just bought T handles for those
mhm.
specific sizes, and I'll probably end up just adding to the T handles for any
what I,
torque bits.
I guess what I should mention is like, how much does this fucking set cost? $56. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
What I should mention is, um, while a set like this is nice, it has, at least for me professionally, I would use something different. But what I would use professionally is grossly out of this price range, and I'll show you. So I would use this. So this is from Snap-on Ratcheting 5-position soft grip screwdriver. So this is a replaceable shank. You can pull this shank out and put a different length shank in there, and then it just takes a bit. And then what this does is it turns, and you can ratchet this as well, like tightening, loosening, just centered, right? But then
Okay.
again, it's $100 fucking just for this. This doesn't even include the shanks. Like it includes that shank, and then if you want to buy the other size shanks, like that's more money, and then you put bits in there. That's no, but like day to day, if I'm professionally being a mechanic 5 days a fucking week, that is exactly what I'm using, and it is absolutely worth the price, in my opinion. Now, if you don't want to spend that kind of money, that's fine. This is why I label this as a nice to have. Like it's kind of like a splurge thing. Like it's not required, but it will feel good. Like I really like Snap-on's like grip handle like shape and configuration, and so I use this for for many years. Like I even tried the Matco version of this, which also rotates, but it's very a little more chintzy. This works a bit better, in my opinion. So like I would buy this knowing how well it works. Um, that doesn't mean you need to buy this. Like if you're on a strict budget, this works fine, and in some cases you prefer this over these, right? Because you can kind of abuse slash put a lot more force into a fixed screwdriver than you can this.
Hmm.
And a lot of the reason I use this is for like small intricate work, like clamps or like interior stuff you don't want to put the force and torque of a drill on. Um,
Okay.
so whether or not this has enough application in the home to merit its price tag, I guess is debatable. Like, you know, if you like fancy shit and you want fancy stuff, cool. But these will do the majority of what this will do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just prefer this because it's in some applications it's nice. As a mechanic, I don't want to say there are two types of mechanics, but there are brute force mechanics and there are finesse mechanics, right? There are people who just love to beat on shit, and there are people who will try to finagle something out of a hole for an unreasonably long amount of time. I am the finagle something out of a hole person. I'm not the beat the shit out of something person. Um, Both can be effective, and in some cases, I will turn into beat the shit out of somebody if it's being combative. Um, like it's that whole meme where it's like I'm not asking anymore, and it shows a blowtorch. Like there's a time and a place for that, but um, I think I personally find more success in trying to spend more time in doing things the finesse way versus just brute forcing something. But there is a time and a place for brute force that sometimes will just work. But
Okay.
I take it, I approach doing like maintenance work as in I don't want to cause any more damage than I have to cause. And so a lot of my tool choice is set up based around that. Like if something makes something more ergonomic or less likely to slip, I'll probably spend the money on that just because I hate the idea of causing additional damage. Like I want it to look like I was never there. Um, Granted, that's probably not applicable to, you know, maybe your own personal car or your house. Like you just want to get it done in a reasonable price, and that's what this is perfect for. Um,
Okay.
but that's sort of like this is where I'm like I'm trying to. I don't want to be too confusing, but I want to show like that there are other options and why you would choose those other options.
No, I
Um,
appreciate that because I have seen a lot of different like ratcheting screwdrivers, and
yeah.
I was like, I don't know if those are, depending on which ones they are, but like I don't know if these things are going to actually be that useful, or are they going to break really easily. So
So
I've got a ton of just regular
yeah.
screwdrivers. They're cheap, like Stanley pieces of crap, but when they wear out, when I you know mangle the head or anything like that, I'll just go replace them with, you know, something like gear wrench fixed
Uh-huh.
screwdrivers. But I'll uh, apart from the snap-on one, that one looks a little bit more fancy than I would
Right.
generally use. But if that is a solidly useful screwdriver that's gonna, survive a long time, as long as I'm not beating the crap out of something with it.
Well, so
I'm definitely not against
Here's the
something like
upside with
that.
Snap-on, right? Like you're paying a premium for two reasons. One, it says Snap-on, and in some cases, it's made in the U.S. Two, it's for most things they make, it's lifetime warranty. So you find a Snap-on truck or contact your local Snap-on dealer and just walk onto their truck and be like, "I need a new one," and they will usually replace it, even if you have like blatantly abused it.
Okay.
So that is the upside of it. The other reason a lot of people buy Snap-on or Matco or Mac is because they are professional mechanics and they are in the middle of a job and the Snap-on truck shows up that day and they absolutely must have that fucking tool right the fuck now and they will buy it off the truck for an exorbitant price increase because their livelihood is that like they're like in the middle of a fucking job. It would be like if Home Depot had like a tractor trailer that went around neighborhoods like a fucking ice cream truck, and like you're doing home maintenance and the Home Depot truck shows up, and you're like, oh fuck, I need a toilet gasket. Finally, the Home
Yeah.
Depot truck's here. I don't care if the gasket's $20. Just give it to me so I don't have to fucking leave. That's
Yeah.
the situation the Snap-on truck puts you in. And then while you're in the truck, you're looking around. You're like, oh, I came here for a toilet gasket, but here's this Milwaukee pack-out box. I've been meaning to get one, and it's right here. Like that's how that works. And then like it'd be also like if the Home Depot truck gave you a line of credit and let you just buy shit every week, and you see how people get in this situation.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. I like this one because especially because you can bend it into a handle like this, and it gives you like a little something to push on. I also like the stubby version of this, which is right here, and they come in different colors. So there's a stubby version of that, which that doesn't rotate. But I almost find this, especially if you're doing like computer work, this is kind of nice. And they have the interchangeable shanks, which are different sizes, and you can just kind of drop them in.
Okay.
But so here's my thing with ratcheting anything, right? Maybe I'm like a little autistic, but it has to feel good. If the ratcheting mechanism doesn't feel solid to me, I would rather do more work with a fixed tool than have a shitty ratchet. So like a lot of the cheap ratcheting screwdrivers you see at like Home Depot, you go and turn the ratchet and like maybe it's just me being like super picky, but it doesn't feel good to me. So I'm like I would just rather have a fucking fixed screwdriver than have to deal with like a shitty ratchet, because like the problem with a ratchet is if the ratcheting mechanism isn't good, it will start binding and you'll feel it in your hand. You can kind of hear it. It's almost just like it's like when like your brakes are starting to go bad on your fucking car. Like that's what it feels like, but every time you turn it and you're just like
Yeah.
it grinds my gears. So I'm like, forgive the pun, but it grinds my gears. So I'm just like I would rather have no ratcheting mechanism than a shitty ratcheting mechanism. That's just me personally. Some people don't notice, don't care, and they'll just go at it. I'll go to town. You know what I mean? But for me, if
I'm
it's
with
my
you.
money, yeah, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
picky. So
My one three eighths ratchet is a snap-on because of that. Because I was using that for my motorcycle, so I had crappy cobalt, you know,
yeah,
uh, stuff. But I was like, I'm gonna get a nice ratchet, and then and I'm also not worried about this thing, breaking while I'm using it on,
yeah.
just basic maintenance.
Even if it does blow out, normally, at least the fancier ratchets I use, like most of mine is Matco, not because I think Matco is better, but just because for the longest time we didn't have a snap-on guy. So like from my standpoint was the Matco guy is here every Tuesday like clockwork, and the snap-on guy is like very hit or miss, was very hit or miss for like several years. So I'm like, if I need a tool replaced, if it's a snap-on, I have to find a snap-on truck or call Snap-on corporate and find a way to mail it to him. Whereas with the Matco guy, he's there every week. I just bring him my things and that's it. That's all there's to it. So a lot of that is dependent. You'll see that it's kind of like it's also sort of like an ecosystem. You'll see some dudes who are very brand loyal. Like we had one dude who was super like Snap-on loyal. He would buy like Snap-on merch, like die-cast cars and shit like that, and display it on top of his box. People with more money than sense, in my opinion, but whatever. Um, yeah, so that's one of the few things I would splurge for Snap-on on, and I'm Snap-on biased because we use Snap-on in the military. So like my formative years as a mechanic was based on using Snap-on tools. So like I this is how like particular I was. I had 3 sets of fixed screwdrivers over the course of my career so far. The first one I had was like a cheap hand-me-down Craftsman set from my dad. Like I don't own any tools. I got out of the military. I need tools. What do I have available that I don't have to buy? My dad was like, "Oh, cool! A perfect opportunity to clear out all this clutter in my garage." So that kind of worked out. Then after a while, I noticed that because these were the classic like Craftsman like acrylic like clear handle ones, and I
Yeah,
noticed
yeah, yeah.
that if your hand is fucking covered in lubricant, that is a terrible thing to try to drive a screw with. Like you just don't grip. Um, and then pretty early in my career, I went into like an overhaul like back shop to where like my hands were getting covered in like the inside of strut fluid all over the place. So then when I bought my first big boy like screwdriver set, like fancy screwdriver set, I bought a Matco one because they had these like felt, built-in like felt sections that were meant to give your hand more grip if it's covered in grease, and it worked. It just looked fucking ugly, and I could never get it clean. And then eventually, after like 3 or 4 years, the fucking felt started tearing out on the ones that I used the most of. Let me see if I can find it. So like I just didn't like it, and every time I was using somebody else's tools for whatever reason, and they had snap-on ones, I'm just like, oh, the snap-on handles feel so goddamn good, and I'm just like, eventually I got fed up, and I'm like, I know this is a fucking waste of money. I don't care. I use them every day, and I literally sold. I went to like once we got a snap-on guy regularly. I told him I was like, look, I was on the truck. I was like, I really want a fucking screwdriver set. He's like, okay. I was like, but I got a Mako one. He's like, all right, well, I'll pay you for it. And like a lot of the truck guys will do this. They will pay you money for your used tools and give you a discount on their tools because they want to get you hooked into the ecosystem. It's like buying an Xbox.
Gotcha. Hey,
So
can you hold on like
yeah,
5 minutes?
yeah,
I
no worries.
gotta take this call from my wife. I'll
Yep,
be right back. All right, thanks, man.
yep. So yeah, these are like the screwdrivers I was talking about from Matco. They had like these felt things on there, and I just didn't like the way they ended up working. They were impossible to fucking keep clean. Like the rubber they used for whatever reason, like it was supposed to be like this soft grip rubber, and like all it did was like trap dirt. And when you would try to clean it with like rubbing alcohol or something, it would like slowly degrade the rubber. And I'm just like, so just because it says it's a fancy brand doesn't mean it's always good. Like Matco is like the main Snap-on competitor, but I don't think these are worth $200 worth of fucking screwdriver.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just kind of like be careful with what you buy. Just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's good. Um, but yeah, in my opinion, like that's basically just relating to the story, I guess. But you don't need a ratcheting screwdriver. If you want a ratcheting screwdriver, there are ones available that are good. My personal preference is Snap-on for all the reasons I listed. So I like it. That doesn't mean you need to have it. Okay, so screwdrivers, metrics A&E sockets, extensions, drivers, adapters up and down, pliers and dikes. Okay, so pliers and dikes. I guess cutters if you want to be like politically correct, but these are what I would recommend. I mean, they're just normal pliers and dikes, right? So
Okay.
these are just gear wrench. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't realize gear wrench meant all this shit. And I know it looks like I'm being a huge gear wrench shill. I like gear wrench. The main reason I am picking this is because it comes like it doesn't really matter what brand you buy. I don't even think gear wrench is like the best brand for a fucking like I would not if I was buying this. I don't maybe probably wouldn't buy uh, this guy right here. I would pick. There's a brand called Nipex. It's German. I think those are better. That's what I personally will buy, and I actually have a set of Nipex pliers in here that I think are you should get, and I ended up
Okay.
using way more than I thought I would use. And a lot of people are just like, I don't understand the point of this, and I ended up using a shitload of them. I like them so much that I insisted that we buy them for our fucking squadron toolboxes, and they let us do it. Um, so yeah, the gear wrench ones doesn't really matter. I like the foam tray, and like a pair of dikes is a pair of dikes is a pair of dikes. It doesn't really fucking matter. They're gonna get dull. Don't cut shit with them that you're not supposed to cut with them, and you'll be fine. Um,
Okay.
so this checks all the basic boxes, and it should work. Like, it'll be fine. Maybe these handles a little oversized, for my opinion, but it's fine. For the price, like what is this? Probably like $40. Nope, never mind, 124. But yeah, it works. You know what I mean? Maybe this is a situation where you could go buy Harbor Freight. Again, I just like the foam tray, but you can construct yourself an alternative. So like, we'll spitball this real quick here. Um, you could do something like this, where you have these like little like dishwasher rack looking things, and you stick the pliers inside of them, or wrenches or whatever. You can provided you have enough like space to vertically store them. Um, and speaking of dikes, there's one more I would get. They're called flush cuts. Um, and these are kind of like almost like hobby. You see them a lot in hobby spaces, but we use them to, well, at least we call them flush cuts, because when you're cutting a zip tie, you can go right down to the bulky section of the zip tie and just cut it flat, and then there's no like little sharp nub to stab you the next time you reach into like that hole, right? Um,
Okay.
so that's what we use them for. We use them a lot for like, especially like cable management, stuff like that, zipping stuff up. Like you sometimes see people just leave these off, or they cut them like halfway up, and then you have this like sword of a, or like razor of a fucking chunk of plastic ready to like slice you open. So we use flush cuts. It's just, I don't know. It's not necessary. It's a pet peeve of mine, and if you do hobby stuff, you probably want flush cuts anyway for cutting screws. So um, any one of those will work. Why are these still over here? But let me see here. Dikes, pliers, we covered those. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Brass and normal hammer, mallet. I have a set here that I picked out, also from Gear Wrench, unfortunately. Nope, nope, nope. Yep, okay. Where did you go? There it is. Nope, yep, there. So this covers all your bases, in my opinion, except for like a brass hammer, but that's a really niche application. Um, so you have your hard normal hammer. You have a really heavy duty like mini sledge. You have a mallet. You have like a small like non-marring like tappy hammer. I will almost say, and then you have a dead blow hammer. So if you've never used a dead blow, do you know what a dead blow hammer is, or do I have to explain it?
No,
Okay, so a dead blow hammer is a
it
hammer.
doesn't bounce,
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't bounce. So the head of this is filled with sand. So the sand absorbs the impact. So when you dead blow something, it doesn't bounce up like this mallet would.
Okay.
Um, so it's just more controllable in some applications. To be honest, I almost exclusively use a dead blow. Like I almost use a dead blow hammer in place of a mallet. Like I guess you could probably put more driving force with a mallet, and this is probably going to get marred up a little bit more. But I would, like, if I was buying this myself, I would buy this one, and this one. That's it. Like if I was buying them separate. Like you don't really need a sledgehammer. You don't really need a mallet. Or if you do, you'll find out if you
Okay.
need them. So I would buy those three. I just picked this because it's convenient and like it covers all your bases except for a large brass hammer, which you would only really use a brass hammer if you're trying to like, in my application, if you're trying to beat a bolt into a hole and you don't want to fuck the bolt up.
Okay.
So like, because brass is soft, it's softer than almost any other material you're going to encounter. So the head of the hammer will deform instead of the bolt, and that works too. So also, if you have like a brass punch, sometimes you will intentionally hit it with a brass hammer because you don't want to like if you're hitting a steel punch with a brass hammer, you're fucking up the hammer, right? Or if you're
Mm.
hitting like a brass punch with a steel hammer, you're gonna mushroom the end of the punch. So if you don't want to mushroom the end of the punch, you hit it brass with brass. Another reason you would use brass is brass doesn't spark. So if you're working in like inside of a fuel tank or something with flammable aerosols or vapors, brass doesn't spark. So you have that going for you. Um, let's see. So we got those mallet headlamp. Okay, so that's pretty simple. There's two different styles of headlamps I would kind of like advise. Oh, I'll get to those here in a second. Actually, we'll just do these now. So these are one of these. These are nice to haves. Actually, we'll do that when we cover the nice to haves. All right. Where's the fucking headlamp? There it is. So I almost like in terms of lighting, I almost exclusively use Streamlight because it is cheaper than Surefire and they have a good warranty and their shit doesn't break. And they have like shit that covers every possible angle you need. So this is a Streamlight double clutch. The head rotates. So where it's rotated right now is the off position. If you rotate it one way, you have a diffused light, so it floods an area. And you rotate it the other way, you have a traditional headlamp that's a spotlight. And then it takes AAA or rechargeables. So very useful. Though if you run it with AAAs, you should know that it has a tendency to like wiggle. Though AAAs have a chance to wiggle, and it'll just sometimes shut the thing off. Also, the foam on the back of this, where is it? This foam here, that will sometimes peel off, but you could just put your own foam back on. Oh yeah, and you can double tap it too. So if you twist it one way and then just tap tap, it'll switch from high beam or low beam. So you have spot, flood, high, low for each. So it's got everything you could possibly want. The only situation I would not use this is if you have to shove your head into a hole where this literally won't fit. if that's the case, you can because this is somewhat bulky on your head. Like you can kind of see how the size of it compared to a hard hat. So there are lights that are more compact, and there are some cases where, like, if you're working in a really confined space, like up in like a crawl space or something, maybe twisting your head around, you're going to smack your light, and you're going to get pissed off. That's the only time I would consider not using this. But in almost every application, I will use this light. I like this light so much that I bought it twice. So like I bought it to have in my toolbox at work and to have at home. Like that's how much I used it.
Okay.
You can see like purchase another variation one time. Like it's still on there. So so I'm not like I'm like talking on my ass. Like I actually use most of the stuff that I'm picking out. Um, or at least in this case, like the gear wrench stuff, that none of that existed when I started when I bought gear wrench tools. Like back when I bought gear wrench tools, it was like a set of sockets. Like I originally bought gear wrench because I needed spline sockets and I didn't want to pay Snap-on prices for spline sockets, and that's how I started buying gear wrench. And then I needed more ratchets, so instead of buying another Snap-on ratchet, I bought gear wrench ratchets instead. Because, like I was saying before, if you have two bolts, like sometimes you want two quarter-inch ratchets or two 3/8 inch ratchets, or you want a stubby ratchet or whatever. You know what I mean? So like, you want a different situations. But eventually, you're just like, okay, I bought the one fancy thing for the thing I use all the time, and then everything else ancillary around it, like you start buying the good enough stuff. So I formulated all this from the good enough section. So okay, so we did all punch Nipexes. These are a lifesaver. Where are these? Right here.
Now, I'd like to say that since you're primarily thinking about doing vehicle stuff, I love those things. I did not pay $200 for them, I don't think.
No.
Thanks, tariffs. Anyway, get a good under the hood light.
Under the hood light, like what you like hang,
You can
like
hang
a
it. They
hanging
make a
light,
couple
or a...
different types. Milwaukee makes one. DeWalt makes one. You can get them wired too. I've seen them at Harbor Freight. It's just like a light bar, and sometimes they're detachable if they're cordless. But they, it's a long light bar that goes from one end of the hood to the other, and it gives you a complete light looking
Okay.
down on your engine bay. And you can also do them on the interior of a vehicle. So if you're doing something inside the vehicle, you can have a light bar, just hook it to each side of the, like, lower the windows, roll the windows down and stick it on both sides, and you have light in the car now.
Okay. Nice. Thanks.
So these are probably my number one recommended tool. Like whenever we had a new person, I would tell them to buy this set, and they'd be like, "It's expensive." I'm like, "Buy it, you'll use it." Um, these used to be you used to be able to find these at Sears. That's where I bought mine. I didn't buy the full set. I bought the big one later on. It's up to you which ones you want, which size you think you need to use. I definitely used the shit out of the small one. I used the small one so much it literally got dyed gold. Like, I wish I could find I had the picture. Hold on, I'll work on this while I'm still talking. But so essentially, just like these pictures show, it has all the stuff that you like. It can be used as in place of a wrench, which a lot of people are like, but I have a crescent wrench. Why do I need this? I fucking hate crescent wrenches. Like, yeah, I cannot fucking stand crescent wrenches. Pipe wrenches, hate them all. Like, I hate that whole like screw mechanism. It's always fucking binding. Like, my personal pet peeve is like I will never use a crescent wrench unless I absolutely have no other fucking choice. I like these because they kind of like they cover a bunch of bases of sizes, and what these are great for is if you know there's a pipe or a line or a nut or something, but you don't know the exact size, and you don't want to like dump half your wrenches to try to figure out what the exact size wrench is. You take this in there, and then you just kind of slide the thing, and it works. Like, it's also great if you need two of the same size wrench, but you don't own two wrenches. So like, say you have a 3/8 nut and a 3/8 bolt head, and you need to, like, you can't get a ratchet or whatever on them, or you have a ratchet and you're like, I don't know what the other size of the blind nut is. You just take this, put it on there, cool, done. You know, it's like it holds the thing. So it's like it's a great like force multiplier, to use like a Pentagon buzzword. Like, if you already have like a wrench set, this can be used as any size ratcheting, like backside, like backing wrench, I should say. Like, so like say you have like a, how do I put this? Like an AN fitting. You're probably not gonna know what AN fitting is. So you have like a pipe, like threaded into another pipe, you need something to hold the nut side, like one side of the pipe, and then you need something to actually turn the other side. Like this will be the holding one. Wow, I use it as like, we call it a backing wrench. So like if there's like a
Okay.
nut that threads onto something else and you need like to hold both, this is the backing one to make sure that when you go to like loosen the nut, it doesn't twist the whole fucking line that you're trying to loosen. But I've used this so much because, especially for me, is like if I have to go somewhere and I don't want to bring all fucking 12 to 20 of my wrenches with me because I don't know what size I'm going to need, I will literally take these 3 wrenches and throw them in my bag and know I have every size wrench covered. I don't have it covered in the most optimal way. Like it's not going to give me as much freedom of movement as a normal wrench would, but it will let me turn nuts, and that is usually what I need in that situation. Um,
I paid $175.35 for my set.
Okay, that's not too bad then.
And just to show you how much I've actually used mine, let me wait for it to finish uploading. This is my toolbox. These are like, wish I could pause this. There we go. This is what the color they come in when they normally come from the box. This is the color mine are. That's how much they've been covered in like oil and stuff like that. So
you can tell the biggest one has been used the least.
that's also the last one I bought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought these two first. These are the two that came in my set, and I've used this one. Like you can see the marks, but I use this one when I don't have the big size wrench I need. So like if I have like, because I bought really big wrenches, and then sometimes you need a really big wrench and another really big wrench as a backing wrench, like when you're working with fuel lines. And you know what? I just don't feel like buying two 2-inch wrenches. So like this is what I use. And sometimes you can't borrow it. So there's that. But I think these are invaluable. This is like one of my must buys, in my opinion. At least the little guy. If nothing else, like the little guy is probably my most used one. So I think this is the 7.5-inch one. Wait, no. What size it is? Yeah, 7, 10, and 12-inch is this set. They make more than just 7, 10, and 12. They make 6 as well. The 6 one's kind of, I don't really see the point, but yeah, the 7 one is the money one for me. I love that fucking tool. It's expensive. You don't have to buy it right away, but I think it comes in handy way more often than people realize. So wrenches, that's another big topic. I guess that leads into it. Where did I have that wrench set? Here we go. I think these are the ratcheting. Yeah, these are the ratcheting ones. So these have a box end, which is like a closed end. So what do I mean by box end? So you have open end and box end, right? Yep. Box end it's like fully enclosed. Open end is the traditional wrench, right? And in some cases you'll have open end and open end. You'll have box and box. You'll have open end ratcheting box, like lots of different styles. I think these personally are probably the most commonly used. I have a set of splurge wrenches, I'll call them, that I think are my personal most used wrenches. I don't know if everybody will agree with me on that, so I'll bring them up in the extras section. But these will work in most scenarios, right? I like having the ratcheting end on the option. There are some that even have like a little swivel here too as well. So it's whatever you think you need. I find the swivel one pretty handy. I think that's one of the ones that I use most. But again, that's like professional shit where like everything I have to get at is off axis in terrible positions, stuff like that. If you're just doing normal house shit, you maybe don't need that. I just find these useful because I can put this on a nut side and use it as a ratchet in case I don't have another ratchet to use that way. You can obviously save money by going with non-ratcheting ones. I just went with this because, again, if I have no wrenches at all, this is a decent set because I have the foam tool tray. It also includes the Allen keys, which are nice. It comes both standard and metric. It's got all the stuff I need. Again, it might be a little bit overkill. I think it's worth it. You can also just buy normal wrenches if you wanted to. I have a different set that is, maybe it's about the same price. Well, all right, yeah, we'll cover that real quick. So this is gonna be like a splurge option. but this is what I like to use. Where are they? Here we go. So these are like the discount brand version of something called Snap-on 4-angle wrenches. Fucking dump my cart. So Snap-on 4-angle wrenches, or 4-way, whatever you want to call it. It's a specific type of wrench. The angles, the thing that's important with these is the angles are offset. So the heads are a 60-degree and a 30-degree angle. And I know it sounds autistic because it's just like, why can't you just use 15-degree? Like, in my experience, like there are like, this is one of the very first things I bought when I got out of the military, because I used these so often in the military, and I tried using normal wrenches and I was just frustrated every fucking time I did. These are, I don't know what is like the magic sauce about these two angles, but they just give you more access. Like, you are able to turn nuts at different fucking, like, if you've ever been in a situation where you can only get the end of the wrench in there and you have to go like turn, like quarter turn, pull out, flip, quarter turn, pull out, flip. Like, if you're in that situation where you have to fucking go like eighth of a turn by eighth of a turn by eighth of a turn, this will let you do that better. And in some cases, this is the only wrench that will let you do it in some areas, in my experience. So this is too much money for 6 fucking wrenches. I paid half this because I bought it from a pawn shop in LA on eBay, still in wrapper, and I still have those fucking wrenches. So check eBay. That's another thing too, is like check eBay for a lot of this stuff, because you'll see people just selling shit off. Check Facebook Marketplace. Somebody might be getting out of their fucking. Somebody might be quitting.
Pawn shops.
Yeah, somebody might like we had dudes who quit, and we had a dude who quit. He was obviously he was a professional aircraft mechanic. His wife's father died and left them a cranberry farm in Oregon. So he just sold all of his shit off and went to go run the cranberry farm. But he had like a full like 128-inch fucking toolbox set up because, you know, he was an actual airplane mechanic. So you'll see a lot of dudes sometimes just dumping their entire collection for a fucking steal because they just need that much money now, for whatever reason. But I like these wrenches. I would get them. I think Snap-on had a patent on them, and that patent expired, and that's now why we can get that for like a third of the price. So these are the same ones, right? It's the same angles, 30 and 60. But I would look for specifically these angles. I don't know why it's these angles, but in my experience, specifically these angles. And you can get them like, so here, like metric and SAE, that's going to come out to the same price as that other set, probably. To 285, so maybe a little bit more. So
You get a complete set for a few bucks more compared to 7 for
yeah.
SAE only on Snap-on.
Yeah, on Snap-on. But it's also like you get what, 12, what is this? Hold on. 19 and then 19 and 13 for the price of that whole set earlier, this.
Yep.
So a little bit more than this. It's up to you whether that cost benefit is worth it.
So here's a question: would you get the 4-way wrenches instead of the?
If I had, okay,
ends,
we'll put it this. I'm gonna fucking take a hot take here. If I could only buy one set of wrenches, I would buy the 4-angle set of wrenches. Like if I could, like if somebody came into my apartment, I'm like, I'm gonna steal some tools. You can keep one set of wrenches, otherwise I'm gonna put a bullet in your head. I'm like, you can have every wrench except the 4-angle ones. That's how much I like those wrenches.
Okay.
It's like you can have every fucking wrench in my wrench drawer except for those.
I would say that for most people, you're better with the box end ratcheting and especially just everyday, day-to-day house stuff. Perfectly fine using the standard 30 and the box end on the other end, ratcheting or not. But yeah, if you're working on something that's got some weird stuff in it, like you have a certain brand of vehicle, and the brand of vehicle is known, it's like it's a German thing or something, or it's got a lot of weird things in weird places, and you don't have good access, you might want the double angle.
I've got assorted, like, again, they're all cheapo wrenches, but it's not a full set. And so my thought, and of course it's not ratcheting, but they're box end and open end.
Yeah, that's like the
So it's
most
like,
common.
okay,
Yeah.
I can probably get away with just adding a couple wrenches to fill out the set,
Hmm.
and then go with the 4 angle wrenches instead of buying a whole new set. I've got to see exactly how many I have, because the my wife and I have both kind of bought just a few tools, like specific tools for what we were doing. So she has our set of wrenches is from her rowing, like the wrenches she used on her boat.
Oh.
Um, so it's like, random sizes that, it doesn't fill out the full thing, but I could
Mhm.
probably go just grab, 3 or 4 and finish it.
Yeah. So like you probably have these. These are, I mean, that's the most
Yeah.
common set and there's nothing wrong with those wrenches. It's just maybe okay. I'll admit I'm biased. I love those fucking snap-on wrenches, and I almost like them to the point that I would actually pay the extra $200 just for the snap-on. But that's being I will admit that that's being unreasonable. But I maybe it's just because it's the wrenches I use in the military, and then I use them my entire civilian career. So it's like I don't want any other wrenches, and if I have the option to buy them, I will. Um, uh, Most people don't have that level of attachment. I still think the base concept, the 30-60 angle, is incredibly useful, especially in confined spaces. The problem is, I don't like Goose is right. I don't know how much a homeowner is going to actually see the benefit of that. Maybe on a car
Yeah.
more so, but in a home, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't do a whole lot of
I
home
think
maintenance,
there's
so
like one place on my lawnmower that it would be useful, but that's about it.
and keep in
But
mind
I'll
too, you can actually buy specific sizes of these. So like with Snap-on, I have a very weird setup because I have this 7-piece set, and then I have a single metric 18 millimeter wrench. And the only reason I have that is because 18 millimeter in metric is the exact same size as like 7/8 British Standard. Like it's the same size in Hawker. There's one
Oh.
specific fucking thing on a Hawker. There's a single specific line that I bought that wrench just for that line because I got so sick of fucking dealing with it. Um, so that's the situation you're going to be like you might run into eventually. But that's just my personal experiences. It's like I can't stand it. Like, and I went through like probably 2 straight years of where I was the Hawker Earth Station guy, like the ground point guy. So I would have to crawl into the hellhole, the Hawker, strip it out, fucking do the sealant and do the bonding check, put it all back together, and I would spend like a week and a half just crammed in this little fucking pipe laden coffin, fucking trying to do maintenance, and it was just like finally I fucking snapped, and I was like, I'm buying these wrenches. Um, Long story short, anyway, so that's my take on wrenches. Whatever you think is useful, the sets you probably have are probably sufficient for what you need. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
If you're missing sizes, try and plug the holes if you can. If you want to buy the sizes you're missing in 4 angle, see if you can. That's just my opinion. I like
Okay.
these though. Like I'm biased, and I look at this as one day I might leave the mill contract sector and have to use my own tools again. Like if I go airline, then if I don't have these wrenches, I'm buying them. That's how much I value these. Um, okay, so Nivex wrenches. Okay, so here we're gonna get into organization. This is pretty easy gimme in my opinion, but there's actually another Snap-on thing. Dish.
I don't think that's what you wanted.
Nope.
You can buy these for fucking
Yeah,
at like Harbor Freight,
I'm gonna give
and they're
a.
perfectly acceptable.
I'm gonna get a good.
Organizer.
Why did I type
maybe?
Snap-on on fucking Snap-on?
On Snap-on's website.
There, this one. This is the one we bought for at work. But I'll show you some alternatives. So when I say at work, a lot of the times we were required to buy off GSA. So like if the item, even if the item is cheaper on Amazon, if it is on GSA, we have to buy through GSA, even if though it's more expensive. So some of my, when I say at work, some of it is influenced by that. GSA is the government approved contract.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, okay. Um,
Yeah.
I've
so
had to deal with them.
yeah. So these are
Uh,
really nice. I like these. They're like a rubber. So like the bottom is hard and it has magnets in it. The sides are like silicone rubber, and then like the rim is hard, and they're collapsible. And you can angle them just like this here. You can angle them like this. So if you need a dish to just toss stuff in, they have different sizes. This is a good set. Um,
PM Tools makes some similar ones
yeah,
where they're mostly just dishes, but they're also collapsible.
they're all over the
Um,
place. And Snap-on
yeah.
and those like Snap-on Matco, they will buy these off Amazon, mark them up like double the price, and just etch their fucking company name on it, and that's it. Like they do
Oh,
that with a lot of
on
stuff
Amazon,
now.
but like they'll get it from like the actual supplier
Hmm.
for whatever the supplier price is, and then they will rebrand it and sell it on the truck. And
I personally
yeah,
like this one. Like I didn't specifically ask to buy these. Like I just told our guy, I'm like, hey, I want I want rubber dishes. So he went out and found these, and these are the ones that are we bought for work. And ever since I've been using them, I quite like this like configuration. It has like this hinge here, and you can split it at
yeah,
the
you
hinge.
can like close it, and you can
Yeah,
have all your shit in there, and you're not gonna lose it.
you could split it at that hinge. I don't know if they'll show you into two different dishes,
Oh yeah.
and then that
Hmm.
whole thing can close. So for us, especially working on the flight line, it's windy or whatever. Say we're digging like low observable like filler out of screw holes or whatever, we can put all those little hard pieces of filler into one of these and just snap it shut, and then it's not going anywhere. Like you know what I mean? Like I know none of that debris or whatever is gonna fly off to somewhere else and go down an intake or something. Again, very specific application. It's definitely falls in the nice to have, but it is nice to have. I for the longest time I used I think I used Matco, just one because it was on the truck, and two they sold it in a 3-pack. So that's what I used for a long time. But if I was going to buy them again, I would be looking for something like this, maybe not specifically from Snap-on, but in a similar style. I tried to find it on Amazon. Last night I looked for like 15 minutes, I couldn't find it, and I was just like, I'll just show you the concept, and you can do your own research as to what you think is applicable to you. Um, let's see. So what else? Small tool bag. Again, I'm going to be
Use
biased.
whatever came with your power tool.
No,
Yes.
this is gonna be also where I'm picky. Um, this is the closest I could find to the standard issue military tool bag, and again, I'm probably biased. I love this fucking tool bag. I've tried using Farm and Fleet generic Milwaukee whatever the fuck bucket tool organ. I've had like dozens of different try to get do tool organizers. Some have come close. Like I've done some of these where when I was trying to do like a mobile tool bag, these like dozens of pockets everywhere type things work to an extent, but these usually end up breaking down, like the netting or whatever fucking rips, and you're just like, all right. I've always
Granted, you're
gone,
doing most of this stuff pre like pack out and tough.
yeah. All of this was
Builds being
before
really
Packout
big.
existed. Packout is a fucking game changer. If I was getting into the game right now, I would probably be buying Packout. But I would also still have one of these because I think this is useful because like if I have to go up into like the interior of an airplane or whatever, I put all the little things I have there. That way I don't have like random shit strewn all over the place where it can roll and fall or whatever. And I guess in like a homeowner like context, say you had to go up in the attic, you can't take your whole fucking toolbox up in the attic. You're not taking the whole
yeah,
pack out thing up in the attic. So like you got like a drill, like some wire strippers, some whatever, and it's just like put it all in the little bag. And then you can easily carry the bag, and it frees up your hand to carry fucking rolls of insulation or your respirator or whatever the fuck else you need. Um, these are the closest I could find to the bags that we got issued in the military, and I love this fucking bag.
Like that came with your power tool.
Every time I fucking have tried the bag that came with your power tool or whatever fucking cobalt slash whatever the fuck option, I've always gone back to this bag. I don't probably just because it's simple and it's just the right size. The only complaint I have about this bag is I can't fit a whole speed handle in it, and I think that's an unreasonable request of the bag. And most people don't even know what the fuck a speed handle is, or nor will they ever use one. So I think this is a great fucking bag. And if I was buying a bag, I would buy this. The only reason I haven't bought this bag is because I've gotten 2 free ones in the course of my lifetime, and I'm still using them. So maybe the only improvement I would make to this bag is to have some sort of like reinforced rubberized bottom. But that's it. Even then, it's still fine. It works great. I love this
all
bag.
right.
So
Question that I should have asked like a few,
things ago.
well, probably 30 minutes ago. So you've got a ton of this stuff on an Amazon list.
Yeah.
Is there a way you could send me that? I've been like taking notes and
Yeah.
writing down and putting like stars on star ratings on like, oh, get this first, get this second. But
Yeah.
if you can send me the like list that you built on Amazon, then I will make sure I haven't missed something.
Yeah, I made the list on Amazon specifically with that, and mostly just so I wouldn't have to like click around and search stuff, and maybe hopefully not expose too much of all my personal shit in case I ever have to like post this on YouTube or something. But
yeah, dude, no, I appreciate it. That's a huge help.
Yeah, so yeah, I can send you this list, and I'll probably refine it a little bit more and give you like better options, and maybe I would do a write up if I'm feeling really autistic. So yeah, those magnetic cups, small tool bag, I think are lifesavers. Also, a bit kit. So these two things right here. Let me bring up both of them. So a bit kit. These are all bits, obviously. I specifically would use these. Bits are something I would not cheap out on. I see this all the fucking time at work. People bulk buy shitty fucking bits and they just explode. And now I have like a FOD problem I have to deal with, and it's scratching the fucking paint /LO/ whatever the fuck. Literally, like just yesterday, not yesterday, 2 days ago, right? We went in. We're like, okay, cool. We got to go change this fucking sensor. First fucking fastener, we put the fucking bit in, it snapped. Like we had a Torx bit. First fucking fastener on the panel, we put it in. Dude didn't even get a quarter turn into it, and it fucking snapped. And they're notorious. I looked at the bit, and I'm like, these are the same fucking bits my old company bought. I fucking hate these bits. And then I turned it in, and luckily he gave me like an off-brand Milwaukee one. I'm like, cool, finally we're getting good fucking bits. But it's just like I bought this. I got company bits that I didn't have to pay for. I go to the tool room and just get a bit. And I still bought the Milwaukee set. That's how annoyed I am with like normal bits. Like I still went and bought the Milwaukee set. Granted, a lot of that was for the reason I bought this was for these items right here. Hold on, I'll show you. This, and these. The reason I got those is because I can drop this in a drill, all these in a drill, and use them. So I can put a socket on the end of that, drop it in a drill, and there you go, I have a socket. And then these you could drop a bit into, and now you have instead of a drill, you got a fucking screw gun. So, very useful. I like them. And, let's see.
A lot of these sets, just so you're not confused, a lot of these sets do come with duplicates, specifically for the reason where, for the most common sizes, they can break.
Or you lose
so
them.
That way you got an extra. Or you lose them, yeah. So, like, you'll have duplicates of different sizes of Phillips. Like that set has 6 Phillips number 2s and 4 Phillips number 2 that are 2 inches. Because, yeah.
And then
I've got a cheapo Black & Decker bit kit that I've already lost like a quarter of.
The other reason I like this is all the bits have their spot. So theoretically, when you're done using
when
them,
one's missing.
Yeah, if you put them back, you know you're missing. And this folds up into a nice little case that I can keep inside my toolbox. A lot of the reasons I pick the stuff that I pick, I will pay more money for a kit if it allows me to control the tools better. Like a lot of professional maintenance requires tool control, especially aviation. So a lot of my stuff, I'm paying non-normal amounts of money just so that I can at a glance tell if something is missing. That's not as critical for almost any other application. But I also find, like, as a very untidy person in general life, like I am obsessively tidy about tools. So especially like in the middle of a job. So like to me, it's like I could have a random bit or drill or whatever, but if I have to go up in the attic and I have to drill a hole through a stud to route a wire, I would rather just take this kit and just drop it in my little canvas bag and carry the canvas bag up with the drill in it than take a single loose fucking drill bit in my fucking drill and whatever. You know, I just want all my stuff tidy. And I'm not like that in any other aspect of my life, and I wish I could be, but in this I'm like autistically particular about it. So
do you have your Six Sigma lean black belt?
I don't. There was a different guy who did
you
this.
You gotta get that.
I was first responder certified, but that was it.
It's funny though, because what you're describing is like, yeah, that's standard best practice across like almost all the industries. It's just that people don't require it. But the
Nobody
people
does
that
it.
nobody does it. Well, the place that does it, I used to have to go audit the core manufacturing facility down in Virginia, and they had just gotten into Lean Six Sigma in a big way. And that's where when you showed me what shadowing was, I was like, oh, okay, I've seen this before. So they do all that. Like they're very much about tool control, not because, well, I mean, they can't, lose tools. If you lose it in a component, that's a huge freaking problem for them. But it's because it just speeds things up.
It's the
Like
Henry Ford thing.
overall, yeah.
So like
So
the old adage is that so Henry Ford was very efficiency based. So he said instead of having a toolbox with a fucking screwdriver or whatever in a toolbox, he hung the screwdriver from the ceiling at like waist height, just enough room for the person to fucking grab the screwdriver, to twist the thing, and then let the screwdriver go. And then like his reasoning was that even though that only saved like 2 out of 10 seconds, because that worker does that action 1,000 times a fucking shift, it saved 200 seconds worth of fucking time a day, and then each shift, and then all that adds up, adds up, adds up, adds up. So it's like it's a whole like it's like the Henry Fordism of shit, but being made into like a new corporate buzzword type thing.
yeah, for me, it'll save stress because I won't be searching for that particular piece, that particular
Yeah.
tool, and throwing crap around my garage, being pissed off because I can't find it.
I get unreasonably stressed out when I have a ton of tools scattered everywhere, because like I'll get into like this like feverish state where like I'm just jobbing and jobbing and jobbing and jobbing, and I'm dropping tools, and nothing will like crash me out faster than if I'm in like this quote quote flow state, and I look down and I can't find the fucking tool I need, and I have to like get out of my groove, because sometimes you get like right into the right spot and you're like, okay, cool, I know the exact angle my hand needs to be cramped in order to make this bolt turn, and then you like look down and you're trying to find the other component to make this thing that you've been working on for an hour and a half work, and it's not there, and then you lose your fucking mind. So that's why that's mainly the reason I do it. And that I lose so much shit that I've become like brutally maladaptive to like not losing stuff, and I still lose stuff. So, but you're hearing it. Anyway, we were about to say, Goose. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I when I went up to my visit my folks over Mother's Day, I brought it was actually four of those little Klein electrical bags, small ones that fit in my suitcase, filled with shit, because I knew I would have to fix something for them, and I knew I didn't want to go through any of my stepdad's shit because it's just a mess. It's just a complete and utter mess, and I hate it every time I had to go in there to look for something. So I said, I'm bringing my own shit. I ain't dealing with it. And that worked out quite a bit better.
And then
It's just absolutely infuriating.
then like moving on from bits, you don't have to get this specific brand, but some people call these Yankees. I have no idea why. I call them a bit holder because that's what it is, or a bit ratchet. They're tiny ratchets that will literally only fit a 1/4 bit inside.
I would
And
recommend the one that Klein has, and if you look it up, you'll see why.
there are two
It's
different
kinda,
kinds.
it's
There's
kind of similar to what Vim Tools does, except it's a fraction of the price. But look it up.
So there's two different kinds. There's this kind where there's a sealed end, and then there's a kind where this is open and the whole bit can slide through. The ones that are open with the whole bit and that can slide through are sometimes incredibly useful because you can. Sometimes you literally just don't have that much room, and you can do that and like shove your pinky on top of it, hold it in place, and everything works. Most of them make kits. I wouldn't even recommend this kit. I just picked this because it's a good example, and honestly because I thought this was a pass-through one, and it's not. But there are other different brands that make them. I think the one I have is like SunX or something like that. Normally the rationing mechanism kind of sucks on these, but it's the only thing that works for that situation. Alternatively, a lot of people don't think about this. You could take a small ratchet in a 1/4-inch socket and just drop a bit in it, because these are 1/4-inch bits, and that's basically what this is. It's just a ratcheting 1/4-inch socket. So you can do that with, like, if you have a ratcheting 1/4-inch wrench, just drop a bit in there. Like a lot of people don't like mentally put that together. So you can kind of do most of the function of this. There are other. Oh man, I wish I would have put it on the list. I wonder if I could find it really quick. Was it the BT40? That shit. Let's see if the fucking memory hole works. No. I'll see if I can find it. But while I'm yapping. But yeah, it's basically just a bit driver, is what we call it. They're somewhat useful. I don't think you absolutely need to have them. I think the bit kit is mandatory. That's why I put the bit kit here, because it gives you all the stuff you need, especially if you already have like once we get into the drill. That's mostly what it's for. It's accessory to the drill, but you can use it on other shit that's not the drill. So that's why I put it in the essentials, because I think the power tools are essential. Like if I have the option to use power tools, I absolutely will. And then the next thing's gonna be like PPE, which you should be fairly familiar with, but I mean we can go over that if you really want to.
Well, okay, general stuff, and this is where you'll be able to tell, like, I have done almost nothing. Like, I take my car into the shop most times, or I've got a buddy at work that helps me, and so I've been trying to learn some of this from him. He's got a full, like, built out, he actually made a custom toolbox for all his stuff and whatnot. I'm not going to his level, but I'm like, okay, I need to start setting things up. So things like, what kind of gloves do you generally want to wear for automotive
Mechanics.
work?
Like I don't know. I have like my preferred thing. So a lot of this is gonna be like what fits for you and why you would
Yeah.
pick those. So I personally prefer mechanics gloves. They're not the best. They're not the worst.
So I use those for lifting.
Mechanics makes a lot of different
I
types of
like them.
gloves, so it depends. Like they even make ones that have like shock absorbing foam, so if like you're using like a fucking rivet gun or like you're drilling a shitload, like it reduces the vibration damage to your like wrist and shit. But I like in terms of gloves, I had just the standard mechanics gloves. It's what's still what I use to this day. Just
Okay.
normal fucking. They don't even like fit me particularly perfectly, like, but they're the best that I've found so far. I don't like this. They have fast fits, which they just slide on your hand. I don't like having all of this floofiness around. I like it tight. So, and like to me, like if I would rather have the Velcro version, these obviously you can tell I quite like them. I like these because if I need airflow, I can just undo the Velcro and just leave the Velcro open, and then it's like it's almost like a slip-on glove, but it just got a little bit more airflow. They have other types too. They have like a high ventilation version if it's hot out, which I've used for riding a bike. They also have armored versions of them. So like the Impact, these are the ones I was talking about. They have this like yellow orangish foam that's specifically for like shock absorption. And some of these now are like touchscreen enabled and all this other shit, so it's all fancy. But I like They also have like cold weather ones, which I use those a lot when it was like -20 outside and I had to go do defuels. Like I use them a lot. Yeah, this is my initial recommendation for gloves. If you find a better version of a glove, fine. But like if I'm going to a store and like I need a set of gloves, I will buy a mechanics because I know it works. Like
Yeah.
the vent
I
ones.
use those gray grip ones. They look just like that, but
Yeah.
without the perforations. But yeah, I like those.
Gloves are pretty personal. I think Mechanics is very
Okay.
well-known name brand. It's just whatever fits your hand. Maybe you pick up a Mechanics gloves and you decide the webbing isn't long enough and it just doesn't fit you. That's fine. Just find whatever fits you.
All right.
I guess the only thing I should say about gloves too is, especially if you're using rubberized gloves, a lot of people will just buy extra larges. I fucking hate gloves with slop. Like my gloves have to be tight because I feel like because I do a lot of stuff where like I'm manipulating like small nuts and screws with my fingers, and like if I have a whole bunch of excess material where that shit's sliding around, it like nothing infuriates me more because I cannot like I'm the guy who I have quote unquote girl hands and like I have really tiny wrists. Like I can touch my middle finger and my thumb and fit my wrist through that hole. Like that's how small my wrists are. Um, so like I'm the guy who has to go in all the tight spots and like cut their hand up and like contort it and get cramps and put things together. So for me, if I need to wear gloves and it has a whole bunch of excess material, then I don't have the dexterity I want. So I want my gloves to be tight and properly fitting. So like if you buy rubber gloves, that would be the only thing I would mention. The really popular rubber gloves are black nitrile. I think those are pretty good. Those are the ones I would buy, unless you have a need for a specifically thicker glove or a non-marring glove. So you can have white latex or natural colored latex, which is if you're handling something that you don't want to leave marks on, like leather, like you're reupholstering a couch or something. Maybe you want those, or you can have like thicker gloves if you're like doing something like with something a little bit more caustic or acidic. It's all relative, I guess. But my standard thing would just be black nitrile gloves. I think they're pretty universal right now.
Okay.
Literally any of these, just whatever you want. And if you're allergic to latex, I don't know what to tell you, but you figure it out. It's gloves. But yeah, and I typically wear mediums. I have girl hands, so those work for me. For respirator, there's two types: full face and half face. I typically use half face. This is the one I've used my entire career. Just this, and then you get little filters that plug into here. It will tell you what it's rated for. You can get particulate filter, gaseous filter, which I'm sure you know from your Six Sigma stuff, but you can get like actual, like this is the full-on filters everything type of filter, and then you have the particulate only. So say you're like sawing sawdust or like MDF board or some shit, this is what you would use. It lets you breathe better than it's just a particulate filter.
Okay.
So that's my advice for those. Goggles, it's just whatever works for you. They always fog up for me, so and then safety glasses. For me, what I prefer for safety glasses is something with as thin as arm as possible, because if I'm wearing glasses and I have to wear hearing protection over the top of it, I don't want the glasses wedging open the hearing protection and letting noise in. So that's the only thing that I'm like particular about with glasses. And I get a lot of that from shooting too. Smith Optics used to make a very thin frame glasses for shooting, and they don't make them anymore, which pisses me off because I still have the lens and I lost the fucking frame. So, but that's the only considerations I would use. But most people just buy whatever the cheapest fucking thing they are and just put in appropriate hearing protection, or just wear foamies, one or the other.
Okay.
So, I like, I have not noise canceling, but pass through Bluetooth hearing protection, and that's because I want to listen to music at work without being conspicuous about it. So I have that, and it's also useful at home if you're like if I had to like do like home work in the garage and I need to like use a cutting wheel or whatever, and it's just making a shitload of noise. I'm just gonna throw those on, and that way I can still listen to my podcast or music or whatever. What are they called? Calm. I don't know if they're still in production anymore. These, I think. Look at the switch. Yeah, Walker BT comms. It's got two switches. This one is for the pass through, so you can hear stuff outside, and then this one is for the Bluetooth. So that will Bluetooth pair to your phone or whatever, and then you can just listen to music and still have your hearing protection. So that's what I prefer. I like those a lot. So
That's
that covered.
good. I've been using earbuds under earmuffs, and
You
it's
can use
super
that too.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So.
It depends on the quality of the make and all that shit. But some people at work put like AirPods underneath their normal hearing protection, which sounds crazy to me. But yeah. All right. So that covers all the quote quote essentials. I would argue another essential is going to be a toolbox, but I lumped that in with power tools just because I didn't really have a whole lot on the power tool list. So I figured I'd add that in there. Now, I agree with everybody that I would go with a Milwaukee Packout, but I have no experience with a Milwaukee Packout, so I don't know all the options fully available to it. So I'll show you when we get to that section, I'll show you what I used. But keep in mind, if I was doing it all again, I would probably do it with a Packout. But I don't have personal experience with it, so I can't tell you what configuration of Packout works best. But I know it does work. So we did that. We did the bit kit. You can also have a drill kit here. for different drill bits. Something else you might want to consider too. It's not an essential, but I guess since we're getting into extras, we'll start there. We'll call it the easy outs or screw extractor.
This is what I needed to talk to you about. Yeah.
So an easy out works as a reverse threading. It's almost like a tapper in reverse. So Craftsman had a version that's like this. I don't particularly like this version all that much because in my experience they break and strip often. But the thinking behind this is this size matches this drill. So you would insert this insert this end into your drill into the head of whatever snapped off screw you have. Reverse the bit on the drill, take this, reverse the direction, and then it should just grab the fucking shank and rip it out. And I think they show you that like this. I don't know if they even like the most PR looking fucking application photos I've ever fucking seen. I'm sure you can. I'll probably try to find you a YouTube video or something that explains exactly how to use them. But that's the essential concept. In what a lot of I normally use is I will drill the thing with a normal drill bit, and then I will use like something like this. You take a normal drill bit. Wow. Okay. Oh, pixelation bit. Take a normal drill bit, and then it has a matching longer shank easy extractor, and then so you just you would drill your hole, either tap this in there or insert this into the hole, and then you would literally ratchet it out like you're ratcheting, like you're loosening a bolt normally, like if the bolt's heads was still there. The idea with this is that these spirals will cut into that hole you drilled and grab the fucking shank of the screw that got snapped off or whatever, and it will pull it out. And then to get this out of the thing, you will then grab the shank of the screw or whatever with like a set of pliers and then just kind of like jolt this in a tightening direction, and it will pop loose and this thing will come out. Eventually these will wear out and you'll end up having to get new ones. Or if you really fuck up, you'll snap one of these off and then you're really up shit creek. These are the most common types that we used. Maybe not this exact name brand, but this style. They just fit in all of these should fit into like a 1/2-inch socket, and that's how we would use it. Like that. This guy's using a rubber fucking wrench, but I would just put this in a socket instead of a wrench. But yeah, that's what it's used for. Hopefully you never have to use it. If you do end up having to use it, it'll be because you're doing it on a car. Exhibit A, right here. This guy.
Yep.
Doing whatever the hell he's doing. I wouldn't use an open end ratchet. I would use an actual socket. That's my opinion. Yeah. See, this is a 1/2-inch size, but yeah. So that's what I would do. It's not that it might save your ass. It might cause you more trouble. If this snaps, then you're kind of really fucked. You have to grind the whole thing out, and that's like you got to get a pencil grinder, and and this is usually a pretty tough metal, so that turns into a whole fucking thing. But it can save your ass in most situations. I didn't have that on here, but that works. So we already went over 4-angle wrenches. I'll put those on there. Magnets and grabbers. Let me switch over to the specialty list. Power tools. This wasn't the specialty list. Okay. Where are you? What did I put that in the hand tools? I did. So this type of magnet is my preferred type. It's got a solid but bendable shank. It's usually made out of like a soft metal, like aluminum or like copper, brass, something like that. You basically bend it and it just stays in that position. It's got a magnet on one end and a handle on the other, and you use it to fish bolts and stuff out of places that you drop them that they shouldn't have dropped in. The alternative would be like a telescoping magnet, which I can show you here. These. So telescoping magnet's fine. The problem with the telescoping magnet is it can't go around a corner. That's my only issue with it. Another thing too, while we're here, mirrors, super useful in my opinion. Kind of underrated. Most people think it's like, oh, it's only for doing inspections. It's like, no, maybe like you're trying to like, something is leaking on your fucking car and you need to see, you can't quite see what it is. You can just stick a flashlight and a mirror down in there. Like, oh, okay, that back of that gasket's leaking. It's like stuff like that. Or if you drop a fucking bolt and you kind of know it's around a corner, but you don't know exactly where, you can put your mirror there and then hopefully lodge your flashlight in a spot that actually stays, and then use your little bendy magnet and try to put the fucking like play reverse, like grabber machine thing at the carnival, like where you're like trying to translate your movements but reverse because you're looking through a mirror. So there's a lot of fun recreational activities. But those are all situations I would use those. Again, not super required, also, but very useful in certain specific applications. Flexible grabber. You have a question, Goose? No.
When you drop a bolt and you don't hear it hit the ground, woohoo!
Yeah, unless you're dropping it in a turbine, you're really gonna shit your pants. So these, it's the same concept as a flexible magnet, but they're a little grabber. So you squeeze the one end and the grabber's open, and then when you release the squeeze, it closes around the item. Um, so a lot of these are quite useful for grabbing things as they are described.
They're described.
Yeah, it's super simple, super cheap. Like you don't need a fancy one. It will save your fucking life when you absolutely need it. Like so like if there's a specific, you only I mean this, it's like one of those you only make that mistake one time, and then you're like, for fuck's sake, I'm getting a tool. That
Yeah, so this is perfect because I've run into the situations needing this so many times.
There is a fair number of vehicles and vehicle makes and models where not all of the fasteners that they use are ferromagnetic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so you will often find yourself, well, not often, but every once in a while I will like old nuts that hold down my shaker hood that came with it. Those nuts are, I think they're like aluminum or something, or I think they're stainless steel, and so they're not ferromagnetic. So I have dropped them before, but luckily I found them. But like those, I'm always afraid of dropping one of those and not being able to get it because I still haven't got a grabber. I've been meaning to grab one. I
I
keep
was
forgetting every time I walk past them.
I was infuriated at work like about a year ago because like one of the first things I had to do was replace an avionics rack, and it's like perfectly angled where it's at like a downward angle. So it's like a big V shape, right? The whole bay is a big V shape, and the rack's sitting in the bay, and it's got these really shitty like mounts for the connectors on top. But I'm messing with it and messing with it, and I drop a nut, and it glides down. I know exactly where it's at. It's at the bottom of the V, but because they're both straight lines leading to the bottom of the V, all they had was straight magnets. So I couldn't get inside the V and go around. All I needed was like a 10 or 30 degree around the corner, and all I wanted was a bendable magnet, and I didn't fucking have it. I literally spent an hour and a half trying to fish a single fucking bolt out of the bottom. I knew exactly where the hell it was. Normally, that's the problem, is you don't know where it is. And I was just like, I would have saved an hour and a half of my time. I would have just had a bendable magnet, like a fucking $10 bendable magnet off Amazon. So that's why I insisted that we buy them when we designed our new toolboxes. This is another one. It's we call them dog bones, but they're really, it's just dual-ended ratchets. Sometimes they're offset, sometimes they're not. Normally they're two different sizes. It's just a flat ratcheting wrench. Normally the ratcheting action on this kind of sucks a little bit, but it's usually pretty useful for what you need it for. Usually the swing isn't that great. It's not as good as like a normal ratchet, but you can get it in better places. So not required. Nice to have. When it's useful, it's useful. They're not useful all the time. I guess that's the best I can say about it. All right, what next? Jeweler screwdrivers. Bit ratchet, we already talked about that. Jeweler screwdrivers, we sort of mentioned earlier, are just smaller screwdrivers. Like say the screw on your fucking glasses hinge or something pops out, or if you're dealing with a connector that has a really tiny thing. Yeah, like I don't think I need to pull up specifically jeweler screwdrivers to explain this to you, but yeah, they work. And everybody knows what you need them for. Let's see. Oh, multimeter. Oh, let me find that.
Now, with jeweler screwdrivers, I would probably look around and find not necessarily jeweler, like where they have longer handles, they're thinner, really precision screwdrivers. I would find like a good set, even if it's not the full set from like iFixit or Klein, but one that maybe has some of the other electronic sizes in it, because there's lots of electronics that use different sizes, sometimes anti-tamper stuff. Even if it's like a really simple fix, even like, so the door system, one of the door brands that we sell at Lowe's, One of the options is that they can come with like multi-point locking, where instead of having like a single deadbolt, they'll have like two bolts, or they'll have a bolt at the top, bolt at the bottom, and then a bolt in the middle. That plate that they hold that in with, if you ever have to replace it or do something to it, they use tri-wing screws to hold the plate in. So if you don't have a tri-wing screwdriver by chance, you can't fix it, or you can't pull it apart, can't do whatever you need to do to it. So having some anti-tamper stuff is probably good.
So for multimeter,
Okay.
I'm not an electrical guy, so I don't really know even the basics of electricity. But this is what I use at work. I think I use a 115, which is a slightly more expensive version. Um, and this will let you do a bunch of different modes. I guess some I would say is like voltage, so you send like certain amounts of volts through something. Resistance, you measure continuity, stuff like that. Amps, which I will almost never use. They make different extension or like the
Captures
plug-in
and
kits,
stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
that you can plug into. Fluke is the industry standard, so they're the brand professionals use, and there are many different types of Fluke meters. Um, you don't need a Fluke meter. You can get just a normal multimeter, especially if you're just fucking
Yeah,
checking.
I've got a cheapo,
Yeah, especially if you're just checking
piece of crap
continuity.
one, but it's good enough.
Yeah,
The
like
Klein stuff is pretty good these days, but Fluke
yeah,
is
Fluke
the
is the
go-to.
standard, and I just bought a Fluke because I got a deal on it. When I again, there was like when I got really lucky when I first started doing mechanic stuff. There was a Sears fucking closing near me, and I bought my Nipex set, my fucking Fluke meter, and a couple other things at like a quarter of the fucking price they normally were. So I got a screaming deal on that shit. Um, but it's sad Sears closed. So Fluke
Yeah.
meter, it's a multimeter. I don't think it needs a whole lot of elaboration. If you know what you're doing well
No.
and you know what you need. Um, in certain applications, you might need like a milliohm or a micro ohm or a mega ohm meter, and that's just
I
all
think
different
that
ranges
one
and
had it.
sensitivities.
I think
So
that had. Oh wait, did it have ohms? It had ohms, but
yeah, it
I don't
has
know. I was
ohms,
looking
but
at the
sometimes you need
amperage
like
is what I saw. Like I saw the
yeah.
macro and the.
Sometimes I'm measuring like the resistance on static wicks or some shit like that, and it's just like
Yeah.
you need a milliohm meter. So we went with that. Spring punches. Okay, cool. Did I? There it is. So there's two types of spring punches I would have. They both have different uses. Um, so you have an automatic center punch, which is this. Where is it? It's basically a punch. You set it on the thing and you press down until it clicks and it like pounds whatever you're doing and makes a little indentation. And you can obviously twist it to reduce or increase the force of the thing you're pushing on. Um, This is useful for setting like a pilot hole for your drill. So it's like say you have to drill in a specific spot and you can't miss like on a piece of wood. You could take this spring punch, push it on the wood until it pops, and then set your drill on that hole and like there you go, Bob's your uncle. Um, the alternative version of this is this guy.
Like what you saw in the picture, where that was an electrical box, and you have to make an additional hole for
Yeah.
something.
This guy is great. It's got two ends. It's got a blunt end and a sharper end. And what you do with this is you set this on the item that you need to make a thing in, and you pull it back like a fucking slingshot and let it go, and it bops the thing. And this is sometimes nice if you're trying to do like make a mark on something that's not entirely stable. Like the spring punch requires you to press on an object in order to make the indentation. This you can set it against an object and pull it like a fucking slingshot, and you don't have to put any pressure on the object. So if something is like loose or delicate, or you don't want to be able to, you don't want to sit there with your hand and just fucking press on it. Like this is useful for that situation. So both do the same function. They are there for different situations, and they're cheap.
Okay.
Um, yeah, they make marks for you to do your stuff.
And then it's showing you the other purpose of the blunt end is you can use it as a door pin punch if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What?
Right here,
A
There.
door pin punch. Oh, to drive those
yep, to drive them in, or well,
in
actually
or
not drive
out.
them in, but to drive them
Drive them
out.
out.
See, I was just
Okay.
using a normal
Got
punch
it.
and a hammer for that. That's just me.
Yep.
Yeah, which I actually didn't put on my list, but we could cover that real quick. Is punches.
You
Icon
had them. You had them
Icon
on the
makes a
list.
good set of Mayhew punches.
So for
Noel
punches,
Mayhew.
Jesus Christ. I would definitely get brass punches. The reason you want brass punches is, again, if you need a pound of bolt out of a fucking hole and you absolutely do not have a replacement bolt, and or the replacement bolt costs hundreds of dollars and will take several weeks to ship to your workplace, you use a brass punch. Or if you're hitting on something and you don't want to mar it, like something metal, and you don't want to mar whatever or smash in whatever. We kind of talked about that with the hammers earlier. But
Yeah. Well, okay. So now, if you're using a brass punch, are you using the shoot, what,
dead
dead
blow
blow
hammer,
hammer on that?
you can. I mean, the right way to do it would be to use a brass hammer with a brass
Brass hammer.
punch, but you can use a steel hammer. Just understand you're probably going to deform your punch because steel's harder than brass.
Yeah.
You can use a dead blow hammer, my default hammer. Like if I go into my toolbox and I just need a hammer, I am grabbing the dead blow hammer. But that is just my personal preference. Um,
Okay.
I think that's less that it's dead blow and more that my specific dead blow hammer hits the sweet spot of like size and weight to be useful. So like my
Okay.
two most used hammers are like my small Craftsman framing hammer and my dead blow hammer. And again, probably because I'm more finesse oriented mechanic than brute force oriented mechanic. I know people who want the biggest hammer possible so they can hit it as hard as they possibly can, and then they break something and then go outside and smoke and swear at other people for an hour, or kick trash cans across hangers. One other thing that's maybe a factor with brass punches is, especially if you're trying to drive a bolt out of like a hole or a hinge or something like that door situation, if the punch is close enough to the size of the hole, these slots that you use to grip the punch might get caught in the hole. So there was a guy I used to work with. His solution to brass punches is he would just go to Home Depot and buy brass bar stock and just cut it.
Hmm.
And that's
Okay.
what he actually sold it too, because he knew like we wanted brass punches, and for whatever reason the Matco truck or whatever didn't have it. He would go to Home Depot, buy like 2 or 3 feet of bar stock, and to just cut it into like 6-inch lengths, and then just bring it to work. We're like, I got brass punches. Who wants one for like $20? Here you go. Like people would do that. So it's a solution, yeah. And then if you really need your grippy thing, I suppose you could just try to add it yourself. These are also great for firearm stuff. Like that's what I mean. Like a lot of stuff, like the receiver on an AR-15 is aluminum. So if you fucking miss with your steel punch, you might fucking really fuck that old receiver up. So, and then I also have the normal set of punches. Where were they? They're in like a little red fucking
Keep going.
tool bag.
I saw him.
Really? Did I?
Yeah. No, scroll down. I saw him. Didn't I?
Did I take my meds? I didn't take my meds.
scroll
No, I
down.
took the meds.
Keep going.
There they are, right here.
There,
Okay,
there.
Jesus Christ, I did take my meds. All right. So it's just a streamer joke. This is what you want for like your basic punch sets. You have a chisel set for causing damage. You have a tapered set, which allows you to put like more force into something, I guess, concentrated on a smaller area. And then you have your straight punch set when you're trying to drive something out of a hole. That's basically it. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. It comes in this nice little.
Firearms, they also make roll pins too.
Yeah.
Roll pin punches.
I really need to stop
Especially
clicking on the
AR-15s.
fucking lists. Where did I do? Did I do it? Where is it? Okay. Let me just scroll through. Oh yeah, here we go. Next thing on the list: spring punches, seal picks, and picks in general. Some people call them scribes as well. That's also another common. These are specific rounded tip version of a pick that's specifically used for like O-rings and seals. So the idea is like you have an O-ring in a groove, and you don't want to put, like, say it's like on an aluminum line, so you can't. Ideally you do not want to put your steel fucking screwdriver in there and pry the seal out. One, because you might fuck up the O-ring, and two, because you might fuck up the groove the O-ring goes in. And if you make a like groove or indentation in that groove, maybe it's gonna start cutting into any new O-ring you put in there. So it's, compounding problems. Just use a rounded fucking pick like you're supposed to, and just scoop the little O-ring out, and you'll be fine. So that's what I use. They have these like rounded edge. They're like flat, almost like a contoured. There you go. Yeah. So they're like flat, coming to a point. You kind of wiggle it underneath the O-ring and just kind of scoop it out like a spoon. And they're rounded, so they shouldn't cause nearly as much damage as an actual pick would. A normal pick is just a sharp like dentist pick, and 90 like these hook and pick set.
Usually the automotive ones, yeah, you can tell. Well, those bigger ones are actually kind of sharp. Some
Yeah.
companies make the bigger ones and they do round off the edge because it's like, hey, this is a radiator set. This is for getting like stuck hoses that have been
Yeah.
stuck to your radiator or coolant system for
There
years.
is
Get them unstuck.
one I don't have on here. I'll find for you real quick. We call them booger pickers, but it's a very specific style of this, which I'll talk about in a second. These are just normal picks. They're just sharpened sticks. You use them to like scratch at corrosion, whatever. Maybe get cotter keys out, stuff like that. And these are for bigger versions of those. Um, I use these a lot. I don't use these as much, mostly because I typically use a booger picker instead of those.
Yeah, those bigger ones are really for automotive and
Yeah, if I
radiation.
use a bigger one, I am using a
Hoses and
booger
stuff.
picker variant of the bigger one, and it's very rare that
Yeah.
I'm using these ones, mostly just because I'm trying to hook like cotter keys, and this is almost just too big. So when I say a booger picker, this.
Hmm.
Come on, load. Nope, that's too big. This is the right one. Yeah, so it's like a
There's
weird
one for
off-angle 90-degree hook. The technical term for it is a cotter key extractor, and most people I know call it a booger picker. It's almost like a corkscrew shaped tip. So like you hook whatever you're trying to do, and then you kind of twist it, and it just rips the fucking cotter key out. So I like that. I wish I could. I'm probably gonna have to go to Snap on it in a minute, aren't I? Because my internet's being super. But this should give you. I'm not saying you gotta buy a Snap on. I'm just giving you an idea of what it is. Do you know what a cotter key is?
I do not, but
I'll
I'm
explain.
like it's like a collared pin, but it's like it got a loop instead of I think I do, but
This is a cotter key,
okay, yeah.
and it'll
So
go.
you just put that hook into
Yeah,
the looped end and
yep,
then
and it'll rip
twist
it
it
out.
and
Yep.
it'll pull it out.
Obviously, it
Okay.
helps to unbend the other angles of it before you pull it out. But yeah, um, yeah. So that's mostly what we use for. It's pretty common in aviation. That's why I'm saying it's nice to have.
Yeah, the only place I've seen those is the AR-15 again. But
Yeah,
yeah,
on the
that
bulk
is
carrier group.
something
Yeah,
that has given me so many freaking problems, and I never used a pick.
yeah.
And that's why.
So picks are great. Let's see, wire tools. I didn't put anything on here. I didn't make anything on my list because I'm not an avionics guy. So you
Got like
need
wire strippers
wire strippers,
and all
wire
that kind of
crimpers.
stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
And there is if you want to get professional company, there's a company called Daniels. We call them Daniels kits. They're specifically for doing avionics stuff, and these are like professional grade kits where you can like that's an automatic wire stripper, and then here you will like put whatever your fucking wire that you're crimping with your like little splice or whatever, you drop them in there and like ratchets and crimps it yourself. So this is all like professional grade stuff. You can accomplish some of that with normal hand tools, which is just your average wire stripper, wire crimpers. That's just what I would look for. I don't have personal experience with a whole lot of that, so my guess would be as good as yours.
Anything made by Klein.
Yeah, Klein is the like blue collar electronics brand. Like a lot of like construction workers and contractors like Klein, so much so that there's like memes about it. So I guess if I was looking for that, I would look for Klein, or at least I would bias Klein stuff. But they also sound like they're probably a little bit overpriced because they're the industry leader and they know it. So who knows? They would like wire strippers would literally be one of those things where I would go to the fucking Harbor Freight and buy a set, and if it keeps working, that's fine by me. Like I don't know enough about wiring to care. If that makes sense.
Harbor Freight's Doyle brand is what they call it. Is like their Klein ripoff stuff. So if you're not sure, you can grab one of those Doyles and see how it works out for you. And if you're happy with it, then you can like the design or however it works, you can upgrade to something better. But
yeah. Oh, another thing that might be useful is an awl, which is just kind of like a straight big pick. You can kind of use these for like aligning holes with something, or if like two things aren't aligned and you have two holes next to each other, you could stick it all in one hole and just kind of wrench on it and maybe cause some damage, but it'll line up. Um, you can use it for that. I think that comes with the fucking set.
It does.
Yeah, there is a straight
Okay.
one. Yeah, so that's what kind of sometimes those can be used for. Let's see, table vise, table grinder. Those are ones that you can mount onto like a tool table, or if you have a top of a toolbox, you can mount it on top of a toolbox. I think vices are super useful. Grinders are also useful, but not as critical. So those work. I don't. Those are pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to bring up an example. Engineer pliers are something you've probably never heard of.
You'd be correct.
Where is it? Okay, here we go. These three guys right here. So Engineer is the brand name. Snap-on used to have a version of these, and then Snap-on stopped making them. And then they changed their design, so their design sucks, not as good as it used to be. What these are basically hyper-aggressive pliers. So like say you're unscrewing a fastener, right? And you were able to get it partially unscrewed, but then the head strips out. So you don't need to go full bore and drill it and use a screw extractor because you have half the screw sticking out of the thing. All you need to do is grab it and just manually pull it, like twist it and pull it out. That's where these come in. You could use normal pliers, or like some people will try to use vice grips. I find that awkward. These are great. So they're basically hyper aggressive pliers. You can see that they're literally cut specifically to grab almost any angle of screw and then forcibly remove the screw. It's gonna destroy the screw in the process, but it's cheaper than having to like drill the fucking screw out. And see, this is what it's meant to prevent. And this is the idea behind it, that it's all set up in the way that it can just grab the head of the screw and you can manually twist it out by hand, just like that.
Okay.
I know it doesn't look like much. I use these a lot. I use these a lot to the point where the jaws are deformed on mine, and I probably need to buy another set. So I originally used the Snap-on ones, and I wore those out, and then Snap-on stopped selling them, so then I bought these instead. These small ones are great, and this is very similar to those style Snap-on used to have. You basically, like if there's like a broken nut plate or something like that, or whatever, or like a fucked up, like say like, all right, hypothetical example. There's a hole. You have a bolt driven through the hole, and then on the backside there's a nut. And on the backside there's very limited space, and somebody stripped out that nut on the backside. So now you can't put a normal wrench on it. And there's like, what else are you gonna do? And like, the space is too small for you to put a set of pliers in there. You would do something like this, because this has teeth. It will grab that nut and cut into whatever's left of that fucking nut, and you can hold that nut in place and then back out the bolt normally and then replace the nut. So that's sort of the scenario you would use these. Again, very niche application, but when you need it, you really fucking need it. And it's like, until you use one, you kind of don't understand why you would want one. The only complaint I would have is like, I hate these types of like cyberized, bulky fucking handle. I like very simple rubber dipped handles. I don't like any of these bulky style handles, because to me, I always shove my tools in places they really shouldn't be. So I prefer, whenever possible, I get handles like this. So it's just a fucking rubber sleeve that's dipped in there. Let's see. So we covered engineer pliers, ratcheting screwdriver we talked about earlier, torque wrenches, torque screwdrivers. So if you know what you need a torque wrench for, you'll need a torque wrench for it. The only thing I have that's maybe like additional on here is, if you're looking for a torque screwdriver, specifically try to find one like this. They don't really highlight this, but this is a key feature in my opinion. This right here. There's a socket at the base of it, and what this does is it allows you to take an adapter, plug that into it, and plug your drill in on this side. So you can just like run your drill and then click, and then all right, cool, you torqued your thing and it didn't over torque. Like, you know what I mean? Your drill obviously has a clutch built into it, and then if you do the math on the manual or whatever, it should have a torque setting. But for us, drill art, like in the aviation world, anything that's torqued needs to be calibrated. So you're technically not allowed to use your drill to torque things, because your drill isn't sent off and calibrated for testing to prove that it actually clutches at the right point. So what we do is we have torque screwdrivers. So like if you're putting a panel on and the torque panel is like, hey, you can only go up to 15 inch-pounds on this panel. So you have this thing, you're like sitting there on for the whole fucking panel going click, click, click in your little fucking star pattern, whatever. The fact that you can plug a drill into this means that you can now basically do that faster with your drill. Again, niche application, and the most you would probably use this for, and what I use mine at home for, is for torquing optic screws. So like when I'm installing like an RMR or something on a pistol slide, and it says, hey, 20 inch-pounds, cool. I could just set it to 20 and click, and it's done. I know I didn't over torque it, because if you over torque it, it'll especially on pistol slides and small optics, those screws are taking the brunt of the force most of the time, unless it's cut very, very unless it's like cut to that specific serial number optic, like somebody measured that optic and cut it so that the slide braces the fucking optic. All of the force is going to be translated into the fucking screws holding that optic on. So it increases the chance that those screws are going to shear, and then the optic goes flying off, and then you have to figure out a way to extract the screws. If what most people do is they just kind of good and tight it, problem is if you make it too tight, those screws are under stress from multiple directions. So the screws are stressed because they're over tightened into their holes, and then they're receiving the stress of recoil every time you fire the gun. So then it's more likely the screws are going to shear. Whereas if you torque them to the recommended specs, they're only having to deal with the stress of the recoil from the gun. They're not having to deal with the additional stress of being over tightened into a hole that they weren't supposed to be tightened too much into. That's my long-winded explanation of why you would need a screwdriver. Normal torque wrenches for whatever auto applications are fine. There's a couple different types. There's the manual size type, which is kind of similar to what you see here. There's digital, which some people don't trust digital. Some people think it's too much fuss. It's whatever. And then there's running torque ones, which just have a big dial, and then you're going and going and going and going, and then you're trying to see what the running torque of something is. I'm trying to think how to explain running torque. It's like when you're installing a nut and you want the nut to provide a specific amount of resistance on a screw. So you would tighten it, and as you're tightening the thing, you're looking at the dial to kind of make sure that the running torque, that the torque that's required to spin that nut, is within the range. So it's, again, niche applications, but I just mentioned it because you might be walking through Lowe's and you see a torque wrench and it has a gigantic dial on it, and then you see another torque wrench and it's just got a digital screen on it, and you're like, what the fuck's the difference? The dial one is for running torque.
So one will also click. They're also called clickers. And when you hit that torque, that head will move, and you'll feel it and hear it, and it'll go click.
Yeah, I guess I should say that. Yeah, if you've never used an actual torque wrench before, what it is you set the amount of torque. So say it's like 12 inch-pounds, and you'll twist and twist and twist it like a normal screwdriver or a normal ratchet, and then when it hits its amount, like you said, you'll hear it click, like the head will bounce over, or in the screwdriver style, it'll literally like do a whole fucking jump like a skip, and like it won't let you turn it any further. So
I was gonna say, instead of doing running torque, just look up clicker torque wrench.
Yeah, I've got
running torque and
I've got an adjustable.
Things.
I've got an adjustable one for like wheel lug nuts.
Yeah, that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but running torque is different than normal torque. Running torque is measuring continuous resistance. Normal torque is measuring a hard threshold. And the click type measures the hard threshold, and the running torque measures the resistance. The amount of force.
Would it be closer to what like a digital torque wrench would measure?
No, because a digital torque wrench is just like you just push the dial and it still clicks. In some cases, you can have digital running torque wrenches where they do this like fucking AOA beep, like an AOA limiter on an F-16, like it would go like beep 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 beep. Yeah, like yes.
Snap-ons do it.
Yeah, so you set like the running torque, like I want 60 inch-pounds of running torque. You'll go and like the closer you get to 60, it like starts beeping more until you get a solid tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me go use the bathroom real quick.
Good timing.
I'll be right back. Yeah. Yapped about this longer than I thought it was. All right. So is everybody still here? No? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't need to look at that right now. Anyway, so we got almost done. I swear to God, not really. So we have torque wrenches we just covered. Ignition wrenches are really small wrenches, and I guess they're used for like car ignitions. And I'm talking like tiny wrenches. They're like these don't look small. They're tiny. Like way below a quarter inch, like quarter inch and lower is like what we're talking here. Like, oh, I guess the highest right here is like 7/16. But then you'll have shit like 5/32, like really tiny stuff. So if you need it, you'll need it. It's just for like really tiny bolts and stuff like that, and also in confined spaces. So you'll. I mean, you don't always need them, but when you do need them, you'll need them. They're fairly cheap,
Okay.
just because they're small. So like, look, $20 for a full set. Um, it's just something I figured I should mention. You don't absolutely need them, but you might run into a point where you eventually need to get them. Digital calipers, I find very useful.
Got a oh man, I can't remember what I got. I got a nice set a long time ago, and they've been sitting mostly unused in the basement. But
These are what I use, something like this. So that
okay,
allows you to measure outer diameter, inner diameter with these like things right here. And that's it. I use them a lot, to be honest. Um, I've never had issues. You'll see a lot of sets that look very similar to this. Even the Snapo Matcon. Wow. Matco and Snap-on versions of these are just going to be Amazon versions bought, and then they're just going to etch Snap-on or Matco there. That's the only difference. They're not any like a lot of the Snap-on Matco stuff is like even if it's like it's a lot of it is like bought on open market and rebranded. So and a lot of that stuff they either because they get it so cheap they don't care about the warranty because they'll just give you a new set if it breaks, or they don't warranty at all, which is the case of like files. Oh, files! I guess I should put that in there. I don't really use files, but you might want just a basic set of files. I don't really have anything to say about files. It's a file. Like I don't know.
yeah, I've got a couple of
Yeah,
files. I can't even remember why I got them. I remember getting them and using them once.
yeah. It's just one of those things. I almost never use files because I'm not fabricating anything. So, let me get my fucking shit set back up again. Um, so, digital calipers, uniwiggles. We talked about that briefly earlier. This is what I'm talking about when I say that there are purpose-built uniwiggles. It's just like the socket wiggle set, but it's got the thing already built into it, and you would use that in a confined space situation. You could also pay an exorbitant amount of money for these on Snap-on. I bought a Snap-on set, and I regret buying one ever since I bought it. Maybe the only good thing to say about the Snap-on version is like the Snap-ons might have thinner walls around the edges, um, like there, like that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the socket wall. But
Okay.
in most cases, it's not worth the extra money for Snap-on. Just buy these. If they break, buy new ones. You know, they're $20, $30, whatever. Um, it's if you even need them. I think they're useful.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't even know they exist. So, or people just use the actual adapter wiggle and they just put a normal socket on the end of it. It's up to you. I like these
Yeah.
because they can get into tighter places.
Yeah, I was gonna say the downside of I just got back, but I see universals, and I was just thinking about that because I went to grab something out of my box. Universals will absolutely change your life.
Um,
And as far as brands are concerned, just generally speaking, I would probably say that like the best bang for your buck in terms of three major brands is gonna be Capri, Tecton, and Gear Wrench. Especially if you want something that's a little like you walk into the store and you see the Craftsman and Cobalt and Husky stuff, and you're like, yeah, I can use that stuff and it's okay. But if you want something that's a little bit better, that's actually not a little bit, it's quite a bit better, and you don't have to spend a lot more money on it. It's going to be one of those three
yeah,
brands.
Tektron's good.
You say
I haven't used Capri. Gear
so,
Wrench is good. So,
oh, Capri, Tektron.
mm-hmm.
And it's
Oh,
TEKTON.
fuck! I knew I was gonna forget. I was like, I completely forgot about crow's feet. We can cover crow's feet in a second, but yeah, I completely forgot fucking crow's feet, like bear claws or flare knot, whatever you want to fucking call it. Yeah.
All kinds of ones like that. Tecton makes a bunch of
Yeah,
crow's feet.
tech, like, because I was looking at crow's foot sets from fucking Snap-on, and I was just like, no, I'm not paying this much
No,
money for fuck.
nope, not
Nope.
at all.
I went.
No.
My literal says Tecton. I have a Tecton set because I needed like obnoxiously large crow's feet for fucking fuel lines.
I was on the hunt for universal adapters for a torque wrench because I wanted to have them in case I ran into needing them, and I think I used them recently on something. I don't remember what. Um, oh no, I know what I used them on. I used them on the fuel lines on my car for the fuel rail because you need to use a normal wrench to get them off. So I didn't have a socket deep enough for it. The normal deep sockets don't fit on top of those, so I had to use crow's foot would have worked too, but I don't have any crow's feet, so I had to use a torque adapter. But mine I bought were Capri. I happened to run across them, and that's yeah.
Sorry, I'm just getting set up, flaring.
Clarinet wrenches are like the one thing I haven't bought yet because I don't know what fucking brand to buy.
Tectron's fine, or gear wrench, whatever. Yeah, I personally, this is another one of those like I would get a 12-point situation, but
Yeah.
because if I'm having to use a flare knot, that means I'm already like up shit's creek, so I don't need to be even more limited. But um,
I was looking at Vims. I'm probably gonna get one of the Vim sets in the future.
I always forget that they make these as normal wrenches as well. But
Mhm.
anyway, let's press on. Um, additional specialty tools. I don't even know what the fuck I would call this. I just call it a long bendy bit driver. So it's got a bit driver on one end, a bit driver on one end, and a quarter-inch socket on the other. Both of
What does
these,
Vim call theirs?
I have no idea. Both of these rotate. They lock, not super firmly, but they do lock. And then they have like a little like toothed area where you can kind of manually spin it. But this is great for getting in like a confined spot where like you don't have a lot of clearance, but it's like deep in. I use these a lot on, or I used to use them a lot on interiors. I'm assuming they would come in very handy on cars in some cases. Um, but yeah, I like these. They're very cheap. It's to me, it's like a no-brainer. Like this guy's using it
Yeah.
on a V-band clamp. Great, cool.
I had to use mine on the transmission pan, well, not transmission, but the transmission fill plug is in a really tight space.
Oh, I
So
just
the
added
end
it.
that holds a quarter-inch bit, I had to put the 8 millimeter in there and cut it off, no problem. I didn't have to do anything weird like I did the first couple times I did it. Saves me every time.
Then another thing I would recommend maybe eventually is a skin spoon. We call them skin spoons um, because they're typically used on aircraft skin. This is 4140 aluminum. You can also get plastic versions of these that don't mar stuff, but that are weaker. I just happen to use skin spoons, and you can literally see them in that fucking video I had right here.
Yeah.
There's my skin
And
spoons.
in the case of automotive, plastic is sometimes good because
Yeah.
that way you don't mar up what you're working on. And if you're doing
Um,
an interior and you have a plastic panel, you don't want
It
to
just yeah,
mess up
just
the
I guess
panel.
just to prove that I'm not talking out my ass. Like here's my engineer pliers. Like in there's my brass hammer that's beat the fuck. Um, yeah, I don't know what else do I have on here. Oh, like needle nose and 90-degree pliers. That's another thing you can kind of do too. I didn't mention that. I should probably put those on there. It's just like long grabber pliers, especially needle nose and stuff that do like 45 or 90 degrees. Those can sometimes come in handy. Um, what else? That's my ratcheting. These are all my snap-ons. That's my ratcheting. There's one of my dog bones, um, along with my cup here. And then like this is a control yoke from a fucking Beach Jet 400.
I was gonna say this is from when you were back in
Yeah.
Illinois.
Yeah, and then this is a valve core remover for like a tire valve core. That's a specific tool. I got that off Amazon. Um, yeah, this is what happens when you don't have a fucking tool set and all your shit's just on the fucking floor, and you have half the strut of a fucking airplane out at 3 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, so that I'm I'm trying to speed it along because we're already probably past 2 hours worth of fucking yapping. Um, so let's see here. What else do I have for special details? Okay, so we have covered like long pliers, wiggles, 4-angle wrenches, torque wrenches. I guess I'll briefly cover toolboxes. This is the toolbox I use. It most certainly was not $2,000 when I bought it. I actually got lucky because when they delivered it, they fucking dented the back of it, and so they gave me shipping for free. I think I paid like $600 for this. It was on sale. Um, but this is my specific toolbox that I use. I quite like it. It's hot take. If you're going to be a professional mechanic, I think one of the few things that are worth it is a Snap-on or a Matco box, specifically because their drawers are typically rated to handle far more weight. Mine work, but you can literally hear the drawers creaking as I pull them out because I probably had them overweighed for too long. Watch. That's what it sounds like, and that's because all the ball bearings have half of them have fallen out. So now keep in mind, this is a little bit extra because this has the top stack on there. Mine doesn't have a top stack. Mine looks just like this, and then I went and bought butcher's block, and I had them cut. I bought a buddy of mine went in halvesies on a huge sheet of butcher's block from Lowe's or Home Depot, and we cut it to size in his garage with a bandsaw, and we just placed them on top. And mine has worked. I prefer stainless steel tops personally, but these are also fine. Stainless steel tops sometimes are kind of weird because they scratch your shit, but I have a butcher's block top. It's fine. Butcher's block tops are kind of cool too because you can kind of drill into them and mount like vices or chargers or whatever the fuck else you need.
A bunch of brands do make those.
Yeah.
You can, Husky makes mine's a Husky with a raisable and lowerable.
This is the version I have. I will give them to their credit. Literally, like 5 years after I bought the toolbox, I spent like 6 months trying to find drawer slides that work, and I was dumb. And I don't know why I didn't think of this first. I just emailed the company. I was like, "How much do I have to pay you? Just please send me some drawer slides." She's like, "Oh, we'll just ship them out. What's your address?" I was like, "Oh, I spent like $80 on fucking drawer slides that I didn't need to spend, and they just sat in my locker room." So I still need to email them and hopefully get a full replacement set and redo all my boxes. But I've had this box for probably 10 years. I used it for daily for like more than daily, probably like 8 of them. Another option. Go ahead.
But that's something that I would prefer is to have, a box where you just put everything, right? Rather than right now, I've got little, carryable
Mm-hmm.
tool boxes, cheapo plastic ones, and it's a pain in the neck because it's like, wait, which one is it in?
Yeah.
Where did I put it? All that nonsense.
I think 56 is a sweet spot in terms of size. Like it's still movable around your garage, but big enough to handle most of the shit you're going to need. And a lot of things with a lot of problems that people have with toolboxes is they buy one that's just big enough to fit all the shit they have now, and they don't leave any more room for expanding into more stuff. So I like this, especially because it's got a cabinet, so I can put like back when I was regular doing maintenance, I would put like hazardous waste in my cabinet. Like if I had like Aerocroil, I guess maybe you don't know what Aerocroil is, but like WD-40, that's the equivalent, or like spray paint or whatever. Or I would put my respirator in there. Yeah, I put all my power tools in there. I maybe wouldn't use this configuration. Like if I was buying brand new, I wouldn't use this configuration. I just picked this just to show you what I have currently, and I've never. Mostly because all my stickers are on my toolbox and I don't want to lose all my stickers, I never upgraded to like a bigger box. I think 56 is a sweet spot. I don't particularly like this drawer configuration, the way they have it set up. Just keep in mind, if you do get a toolbox, keep in mind how much weight you're putting on each drawer. Unless you go like super splurge and you spend 14 grand on a Snap-on toolbox. Keep in mind, like,
No.
Yeah, like you see here, like this
Probably
drawer.
say U.S. General.
Yeah, you see how this drawer has.
Fine.
You see how this drawer has 2 slides? That means this drawer is designed to handle more weight. So if I was setting up this toolbox, how I lay out my toolbox is I put anything that is heavy and requires a lot of weight up top. So here I have all my sockets and power tools up top because sockets are heavy. They're like dense metal, right? And there's a lot of them. So I put all up there, and like all my power tools added up and my air tools added up add up to a lot of weight. But I want them all in the same spot, so I put them all up here. And then immediately under that, I go most frequently used to least frequently used, because my thinking is I'm old and I don't like bending over. So the stuff I use the most, I want highest up so I don't have to bend over to get it. And then, so all my screwdrivers, mirrors, flashlights are up here. And then sockets and ratchets and, well, whatever's not up here in terms of sockets and ratchets are there. And then wrenches, and then pliers, and then whatever the fuck else. And like cherry fucking rivet kits and God knows what, snap ring pliers and all this other craziness. I guess snap ring pliers is another thing we cover as a specialty tool. I knew this was going to happen. I made this list and I was like, I can't think of anything else. I was like, I'm going to start yapping and I'm going to immediately fucking think of something. So a snap ring plier is built for removing snap rings. They're like little rings that are pre-tensioned and they have like a hole at each end. They're half moon shaped and they like kind of drop into a groove and lock something in. You might encounter them with like your car, or if your actual normal ratchet to drive sockets explodes, the snap ring might have been what was holding all the little guts inside. So I'll put this under specialty tools. If you need it, you'll know you need it. In some cases, it's useful. In some cases, you won't need it right away. So, fuck, specialty tools. Okay, let's see what else. Let me pull my fucking master sheet up again. Oh yeah, power tools. That's what we were getting into after this. Where did I put it? None of these. Oh yeah, flare nuts. Oh yeah, we were going to talk about crow's feet and flare nuts. These are crow's feet. You put a ratchet or whatever on it, and it allows like off angle or like this, where you get this like in a tight spot. So that's kind of how that's meant to be set up. Again, not super mandatory, but is nice to have. So put that under specialty. And then flare nut is the same concept, but they are specifically cut to get around certain like tight grooved objects. If I was going to get a flare nut, I would get a 12-point flare nut if you could. I don't know how easy it is to find a 12-point flare nut. I know Snap-on makes them, so I might have to do some more digging for you on that end before I find something that is affordable and not Snap-on. But this is a very specific application, and if you need it, you'll figure out you need it pretty quickly. And let me see. We covered all those. Oh yeah, another toolbox option. Again, probably just go with Milwaukee Packout. But in case you don't, for whatever reason, this is what I went from my toolbox to this, and this is kind of nice because it includes the foam. So there's a company called Kaizen, Kaizen, and they make a very specific type of foam. They even sell it pre-cut for specific types of toolboxes. So they even make it for Milwaukee Packout, so that might even be something you might want to look into. But Kaizen foam is basically layers of foam stacked on top of each other, and they make it to where it's already like how do you say this? Like pre-shadowed.
Okay.
So like, fuck, how do I explain this to you? I wish they had like a good cutout, but like, maybe I can show you on. Oh yeah, I can show you on my pictures. This is all Kaizen foam, so it's multi-layered foam. So like I cut a custom MDF hardback on some of these, and some of them some companies have the option where they will glue it for you. But you pick your thickness of foam. The top layer of foam is black, and every layer of foam underneath that is colored. So it's kind of like it makes a blank canvas for you to do your own shadowing. And what you do is you lay your tool on top, you draw an outline, and then you take like a razor or whatever, and you just cut into the depth of the foam that you need. And then it's almost like you ever have like a Pelican case with that like pull and pluck foam?
Yeah.
Same concept, but it's layers of foam. So you just dig your hand in there, rip it out, and then you have a flat red layer of foam underneath that shows you your tool's missing. And then like a lot of what I did, this might not make sense, but like I drew like little bridges in between each tool. And the reason for this is I can stick my finger in that and pull the tool out. Same thing with this here. So like a lot of the small stuff here, it looks neater than having like, because a lot of the custom cuts will have like a big rounded bulge on one end for you to dig your finger in. I'm like, this is stupid. I could pack more tools in if I bridge between the tools and then use that as my little finger wrenching point. It also can kind of help hide mistakes too if you really cut things wrong. But yeah, soft draw pliers. Maybe we should go over those. But
So, question on the pack out.
mm-hmm.
You'd say that's a good option
Yeah,
instead of buying
yeah.
the big box. So
I
you
it's workable.
It's workable.
Yeah,
It's convenient in that in certain aspects and certain pieces of it, you can say take apart and go somewhere else with it. Like I use it. My pack out stuff is primarily for my like home fixer upper stuff. So I'll have like all my electrical tools in a pack out bag, and then I'll have like electrical connectors and wire nuts and all kinds of stuff like that and conduit stuff all in my pack out. So I can take it and move it to a room with me to work with it.
so pack out is very much oriented towards like contractors and mobile maintenance guys. And for a long, not for a long time, I did mobile maintenance for a year, and I got pissed off that my company wouldn't build us a solution. My solution was basically this, not exactly this, because I used Kaizen foam and not this foam, but I literally used this size case, a Pelican 1560, which is what you see in these pictures, and I created stackable layers. So the idea behind this was, here's my normal toolbox. I have this stackable hardback layer. So when I am at home base and I'm operating out of my toolbox, I just drop this in my toolbox and it works. But if I get a mobile call, I just open my toolbox, pick this up, drop it in my fucking Pelican case, and Bob's your uncle, off you go. The problem with the Pelican case is it can't fit nearly as all like the nice to have tools that I have here. So I had to really think about what do I only want. Like, so I didn't take any of my vice grips because I don't use the vice grips. Like, so I had to really sit there and think, what tools am I gonna take and use? I still have pictures somewhere with how I laid out my mobile toolbox, but yeah, that's kind of that was the option behind it.
So I think you have some
having
planning.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you can
some
see how
planning
the
would be in
concept
order.
works here. It's like stacks. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've literally got so I have a Pelican case back when I was skydiving. That's how I transport my rig on airplanes. And so I have I can't even remember, but it's about that size. So I could go use that as I mean, if I wasn't going to get a toolbox initially, I could start with that and then come up with given the foam trays, like come up with a toolbox that is going to fit the foam trays in reasonably well
Mm-hmm.
to basically use both. But then you just decide, okay, I'm going to stack, most common on the top and
Yeah.
least used on the
Well,
bottom.
it wasn't even that. For me, a lot of it was like the different foam thickness. So like I had to figure out what tools were of similar thickness and put them on the same layer of foam. So like a lot of that wasn't like, yeah, when I built the mobile toolkit, it was all about how much I could cram into that little small space. And my mentality was I wanted it small enough that I could potentially have to carry it on an airplane if I have to fly somewhere. I never did, but that was my reasoning with it. Kaizen, which is this company isn't the brand that actually makes Kaizen, but they do source it. They will custom make the stuff for you. So say you have like a 1650 case. Here you can pick your layers, right? I want whatever layer, and then your sandwich colors. I want red, white, green, whatever you want the filler color to be. And then do you want a piece of foam for the lid, etc. So I don't know if these are the hardback ones. I could do some digging and see if I can remember, because I put this together about a year or two ago. I had a hardback, and I think I tried to cut them myself and it went poorly. Like we had a big sheet of MDF that was like scrap, and I was just trying to cut it at work, and it didn't, like I couldn't find an adhesive that worked as well as the one that was come fresh from the company. I just don't remember off the top of my head the company that I used. I can do some digging and find it for you, but that going back to my pictures, only one of these was actually like the foam layers was made by me. I think it's this bottom layer. Everything else was pre-made because they were just able to glue it better. And for the really thin ones, I didn't have a filler layer, so that's just like I think in this picture, like this tray is so thin because it's only like one or two layers of foam, so there's not enough foam to do a filler layer or whatever. It was just all black, so whatever. But you get a rough idea.
I would probably say a good toolbox would does most people the best.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely. Well, I should make that very clear. Ideally, I am operating out of a toolbox. This is for in case I have to take my tools somewhere else. And now I did this because I operated out of this toolbox here for like 7 years, and then I did this because I got sick and tired of just loose tools inside of a large Pelican case, and I wanted my own organization. My company swore up and down that they were going to do it. Finally, I got fed up and did it myself. Where this came in handy after I left the mobile repair team was the company I used to work at. We had 3 different hangars. So, like, I could theoretically be assigned to go work on a plane 2 hangars down. Now, I could forklift my fucking toolbox all the way the fuck down there, but that takes, like, an hour, maybe 2 hours, and then you get into pissing contests between the different departments about who's authorized to use the fucking forklift. So whatever. Like, I just took my trays, put them in my little Pelican case, and walked my happy ass down the fucking flight line and into the other hangar, and I was good to go. And if I needed anything else, then I could make a run back and grab whatever specific little tool I needed. But this is useful because, like Goose was saying, if you have to go in the different areas of your house, or if your buddy is broken down on the fucking side of the road and you're like, hey man, I don't know what happened, there's a whole bunch of fluid spilling underneath my motorcycle. It's like, okay, cool, let me get my tools, I'll be over there in a minute, we'll see if we can fix something real quick. It's kind of like something you can do that way if you have to go to somebody else's house and do a little bit of work or something like that. So I find that convenient. Again, the Milwaukee Pack-Out is like the penultimate version of that. That's just what I cobbled together because Milwaukee Pack-Out didn't exist when I was building that. And then it sucked for me because Milwaukee Pack-Out came out like a year and a half after that, and I would see like the SWAT guys, Southwest Airframe and Tank, that's the name of the company, that are fuel tank specialists. They would show up and they would no joke have a Milwaukee Pack-Out like setup that was taller than I was. They would just have stacks of fucking boxes, but they would drive like a Ford Connect van to the site, and they would just offload their little fucking stack of Milwaukee Pack-Outs, bring it out in the hangar, de-stack it, and then they had all their tools they needed right there. So it worked out. It was fucking literally revolutionary for people fucking who having to do mobile work. And I like it because I like Milwaukee. Milwaukee is my preferred power tool brand, so that kind of jives. Like that's why I say if I was doing it all again, I would start with the Milwaukee Pack-Out, and then eventually, like if I was a professional mechanic starting out and I'm coming fresh out of A&P school, unless I am getting a screaming deal on something Snap-on, which they will try to do if you're at like a professional school, sometimes they'll offer like bulk discounts on starter setups.
Discounts.
Yeah.
Get that too.
If I don't have that option available, or maybe even if I do have that option available, I'm still going to buy a Milwaukee Pack-Out just because I think it's useful to be able to move the shit around. Again, I don't even know what the pricing is on a Milwaukee Pack-Out because I have no need for it right now. So they're cheap compared to the other options, I think. But that's the setups I use.
They are not cheap compared to most toolboxes. So
yeah, so that's the thing is
space-wise, a toolbox is definitely going to be your best bet for just tool storage.
Yeah, I don't see a need to be mobile for really anything I'm going to do. And if I do end up wanting that, I think I'll just repurpose the Pelican case with getting Kaizen foam.
And then the Kaizen foam too, like even if you just have a normal like...
Well, that for the toolbox too.
Yeah,
right?
If you have it in the toolbox, you can go right here and be like, okay, what thickness foam do I want? I want 30 millimeter. What's the length and width of my drawer of my toolbox? It's 10 by 5. And then I want the sandwich color to be red. Boom, done. There's your layer of foam for that drawer of your toolbox. And then you just lay your tools out the way you want it, trace them, cut it, pull it, done. Like, it's easy. So that's what I would be doing if I was doing it all over again. Because I have done the manual labor version of this, with like trying to make your own custom shadowing. Because we were competing for a government contract, and the company pulled a couple of the military guys aside, and they're like, hey, well, we want you to set the boxes like the military sets them up. And we were trying to tell them, we're like, look, the military boxes are pre-cut, laser-cut foam from Snap-on, like how they buy it as a kit. They're like, well, we want you to make it just like you had in the military. We're like, I don't think you want that smoke, but all right. So we did it, and then they wanted to do like this whole Six Sigma company policy. Everybody has to have their shit shadowed. And so they did an experiment to see how much it would cost to take one of us and have our shit shadowed. They took 2 of us who had experience doing it. We did it. It took us an entire week to get it done. And then the company was like, yeah, okay, maybe we're not going to have everybody shadow. We'll just have a specific crew for this contract. And then they lost the contract. So It's fine. It's whatever. So those are all options. So if you already have a toolbox, or if you prefer a hard toolbox like I do, the Kaizen foam I think is the best option for that. I would just make sure you
Okay.
get. Well, I guess you won't need a hardback foam if you have it in a toolbox.
Do they
Go
do
ahead.
they actually do you cut the handles, the
Okay, so
indents in the side, or do they do
they'll
that?
cut it as long as you select the correct box.
Okay.
Again, I'll find it. Mine are pre-cut for mine because I typed in. I was like, I have a 1560 Pelican case, and so they just like, here's your pre-cut stacks. Like how many of which. So the only math I had to do on my part was what all the layers added up to in terms of height to make sure it all still fit in the things. But I just ordered several different layers of different thickness that I thought I would need, and then I just wanted to make sure that they didn't stack so high that the thing couldn't close, and that was it.
Okay.
Mine actually go a little bit over the lip, but that's because the lid case pops up a little bit. So, but yeah, they have like the pre-cut. These, like I said, I don't think this was the company because this isn't. They don't have the hard backs. The one that I went with had a hard MDF back, which is what I prefer.
Hmm.
So that was a lot of yapping about toolboxes. Yeah, Milwaukee pack out. We'll get to power tools, which will be the last thing. So I lumped in air tools and non-air tools. This is my tentative list. Again, I didn't put a whole lot of effort into this because, in my opinion, power tools are the oh my god, I need a thing, and it's the thing you buy once, and that's how you end up with a set of power tools. The only thing that I would advise with power tools is that you are buying into an ecosystem. So keep that in mind when you make your initial purchase. My personal preference is Milwaukee. In my anecdotal example is I didn't even go cheap to start. I bought two different drills, two different power tools. I had a Makita drill and I had a Matco impact drill, ratcheting impact. And the Makita I used for about a year daily, and the clutch burned out. And then the Matco one, I was always frustrated because its battery was specific to it and it didn't match anything else. So finally I got fed up and it got stolen by a bunch of rapscallions out of my garage, and I just I couldn't have been happier to see it go. So because that gave me the opportunity to go full send at Milwaukee. So like I replaced my Makita with this right here, this drill. This not this specific one because they're brushless now, which actually these things might be the old school style. But I have this. I have this.
Yeah, those are brushed.
And then there's okay. So Milwaukee makes a bunch of different drills. This is a drill and screwdriver combo. Like there's a switch at the top where you can switch between drill or whatever. I use this as mostly as like a screw, like a motorized screwdriver, and I can also use it as a drill. I like the M12. So there's two types of batteries for Milwaukee. There's M12 and M18. I think that's 12 volt and 18 volt.
Yep.
M12 have these nice little compact ones, and it feels like a gun when you're fucking inserting it. The reason I like this is it's light. And in my old previous job, I would spend a lot of time, like the most time I would be using a drill or a screwdriver drill was when I was like taking fuel panels off. So I am sitting for an entire shift holding the drill over my head, unscrewing like literally several hundred screws. So to me, like if you spend 4 hours holding a drill above your head, you fucking get sick of holding a drill. And the heavier the drill is, the quicker you're gonna fatigue. So for me, for most applications, this is the sweet spot. It's a little bit heavy, so it still can do actual drilling tasks, but it's not so heavy that it's obnoxious. The M18 is the obnoxiously heavy one, and that comes with more power, but that's up to you whether or not you want to, decide to use that. And then you can, with the M18, you can really get into some fucking beefy shit like hacksaws and stuff like that. But I personally use the M12, and that is fine for everyday handy tools. I also don't own a house, so I don't have like a bandsaw, a circular saw. I don't have any of those shit. Mm-hmm. So I might eventually get, if I need those things, I will probably eventually get an M18, because they do make combo sets, which like perfect right here. It will charge an M12 and a fucking M18. It'll charge both. So they keep that in mind. The other cool thing about Milwaukee is they make a lot of add-on stuff. A lot of guys do this now. We have DeWalt at work. Fucking kill me. But it doesn't really matter. They're boom boxes. Really, that's all they are.
Oh
But
God.
I mean, you could just use the JBL speaker. But
Oh, you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
yeah. So I guess we've got pack outs here. But yeah, these are cool. I've used these. It's like an area light that is expandable or whatever. That takes an M18. What was the one
M12
that
hood light.
Yeah, there was a one that I was looking for specifically. Where'd you go, Mr. So? This thing right here. I guess this stacks on top of a pack out.
Yes, it does. I can tell by
And
looking
like
at it.
this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. Even if I didn't own a pack out, I would almost buy this because from the blurry pictures, it's got USB A and C ports to charge your fucking phone. It's got little contraption like pockets for you to store bolts and stuff. 360 light and a battery. Like, I almost want to buy this, even though I don't own a fucking pack out, just because of how like useful it looks to me. Even if I didn't own a pack out, I would probably buy this just because I have M12 stuff. That's really fucking neat. Like, none of this shit existed when I fucking was buying my own shit. But they have a plethora of lights and stuff like that, boom boxes, whatever. I would just use a JBL speaker, but you know what I mean.
Rover service light is also nice because there's that one you see that's recommended has magnets on the back,
Yeah.
so you can slap it either say to the bottom of your hood or to the bottom of something, and you have a light.
Or you have an air compressor in case you got to like inflate a tire.
Yep, you can get it in the back of your car, or you can grab it if you need to go inflate.
I didn't even realize this was a
battery
thing.
in
I'll
it.
probably end up buying this at some point, recklessly.
Yeah. Yep.
The other flip
So
side.
they'll have like M12 and M18 versions of all that stuff usually.
Yeah. I
So
prefer.
that yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so
Most of the smaller stuff, no.
this
Like,
is
that.
okay. So this is I should clarify something. Most of the time at my last job, I worked out of a hangar. So the vast majority of the time, if I needed to move something somewhere, all I really needed was an M12. I didn't need to cut a tree down with a fucking battery. Like, you know what I mean? So I never saw the need to have an M18 setup. Because if I needed something with a lot more ass behind it, I was using shop air, which in the case of your home, you would be using a compressor. So like, if I needed to cut something, I wouldn't use an M18 cutting wheel. I would hook up shop air to my normal air-powered cutting wheel and cut the tube or whatever. Or if I had a grinder, I didn't use an M18 grinder. I just hooked up shop air to my grinder and ground away with that. Like, so there's a give and take. You know what I mean? Like, vacuum. I had an air vac. I bought a Milwaukee vacuum. I kind of hated it because it didn't suck. You know, like, and I didn't suck as nearly as well as a fucking shop air powered shop vac did.
Yeah, so that's one of the issues is I'm like, okay, am I gonna end up wanting to get a compressor?
I think if you own a house, you should
not?
have a compressor. That's my
Really?
personal opinion.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be big. It just has. To
Yeah,
be
it doesn't have to be big.
compressor.
I just think
be
compressors, they
simple
come in
stuff.
so handy for random shit. I own a compressor now, and the only reason I own a compressor is for an airbrush for hobby stuff. So it's a little table compressor. But
Okay.
if I owned a house, I would absolutely be buying a compressor because I have air tools. And like, you know, air tools are just better. They have more fucking power. Like, these are fine and they do the job 90% of the time. So I wouldn't buy it right away because I have all this stuff that I need. But there are like a lot of that stuff okay. If I owned a house, I would probably end up with all three. Ideally, I would have an M12, M18, and air compressor stuff. Because if I do need to go trim hedges, cool, I can take my M18 and plug that in and do trimming that way or whatever the fuck. And if I have whatever else, it's just, this is a lot of, that's why when I say power tools is a lot of like build to fit type stuff. Like, you don't go out and spend $1,500 on power tools. You go out and you buy a drill, and it happens to be a DeWalt drill. So now the next time you go buy a power tool, you're only looking at DeWalt because you want battery commonality, and then it buys you into an ecosystem. So I prefer Milwaukee. I was told to get Milwaukee when I started. I didn't. I got Makita because it was cheaper, and I was fool. And then I ended up paying more, and I ended up getting Milwaukee. And that motherfucking drill has lasted me 10 years. I've not had to replace that drill since. It is beat to shit, and it still works just fine. So I'm after like this. A lot of my experience is literally based off of like I'll buy it. And then 8 years later, it still hasn't broken. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm a gear wrench guy now. Like, you know what I mean? Or okay, cool. I'm a
Yeah.
Milwaukee guy now. But I'm not like that just because it's because it worked. You know what I mean? Like Makita, I'm sure there are Makita guys out there. Makita fucking the clutch broke. And like, yes, I could have warrantied it, but I'm like, you know what? This is the opportunity I need to buy into Milwaukee. And I've been watching everybody else I work with build, use Milwaukee without issue. And then I buy Milwaukee and I have no problems with it. So the flip side of that is my buddy actually had we called it a Chinesium. I don't know what the fuck. It was some random Amazon brand impact driver, just like this impact driver. But it was like some Amazon brand or Harbor Freight brand. And he had that thing for 5 fucking years and it still worked. It would sometimes like spit smoke out of it when you really pushed it, but it worked. And you would literally smell like burning electronics sometimes, but it still works. Like, you know what I mean? So like, he's like, his opinion was like, I can't afford a Milwaukee one right now. Or like, he was a Matco guy. He was buying shit off the truck. He's like, I don't want to buy shit off the truck. I'm just going to go buy this. And he bought it and it never broke. It was of questionable safety, but it never broke. So he never replaced it. So there's also that. But then that was also weird in that that was the one thing in his toolbox that used a different battery than everything else. And it was fucking annoying to work with. So because, he was like, oh, well, let me go find the battery for this specific thing. Another thing too is the batteries will lose juice over time. So like after about 3 or 5 years ish, I don't remember. All I noticed was my batteries were not lasting as long. And then in my brain, I was like, oh yeah, dumbass, the batteries don't just last forever. You've had this tool for fucking 5 years. You should probably go buy some batteries. So there's that. And you can also get off-brand Milwaukee style batteries. Like if you type in M12 battery, you'll probably get an off-brand
that stuff.
battery. You'll probably get off-brand like Power Source or whatever the fuck they're called. Yeah, like upgrade. This is Power Extra. That's the ones I have. I have a bunch of Power Extra ones. But yeah, those maybe they don't last as long. I don't know, but they're cheap. $21. So that's where I would go with it. And keep in mind too, if you really want like the extra duration, you can get M18 sized M12 batteries. So these are like lithium batteries that last longer, but they fit into an M12. So there's that too, like a cross pollinates.
They also make they also make the high output ones. Some of them that are in the smaller low profile, and some of them that are in that profile.
Yep.
And those do actually output more juice to your tool, especially if you own a fuel. If you don't own fuels, it's not a big deal. But if you do, it can help them.
Fuel wasn't a thing when I bought my stuff. When I bought into Milwaukee, the red lithium fuel, none of that shit existed. Like brushless drills were new when I bought into my Milwaukee shit. Like my Milwaukee drill is still brushed. Like I can see the brushes. Like
I don't know what you're referring to with fuel.
Okay, so Milwaukee has I don't even know what the fuck it is because I haven't had to buy anything new from Milwaukee, so because it all works still. So they have
all the different brands have their own terms for it. Milwaukee calls them fuel. DeWalt calls it XR. And then I don't know who else, but there's a bunch of them. The big thing for fuel is that it is all brushless motors. They all use brushless motors.
Do you know what a brushless motor is?
Yes,
okay,
I am familiar.
Because I wasn't really sure how to explain that, but all I know is brushless is a little bit.
I know it from. I know about brushless synchros. But yeah, motors being the same.
I was gonna say, I imagine it's the same concept.
Yeah. Gotta have electrical coupling and not want to have a brush spinning around and rubbing against the surface.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean so right now I've got, cheap, Black & Decker, grabbed it at the exchange when I just needed a drill, and it's, piece of crap batteries are almost dead, and so I'm at the point I'm like, yeah, I want to get something new. So at this point it's just kind of deciding M12 or M18.
Yeah, I fully endorse Milwaukee. I'm a Milwaukee guy through and through, and like this was even before Packout existed, and now that Packout exists, I'm like, why the fuck would you even buy anything else? Because the way it all integrates together is just like, I'm really glad I don't have to buy my own shit anymore, and I don't own a house because I would probably spend reckless amounts of money on like a Milwaukee setup. Um, I'm just glad I'm too
No,
Like
lazy. I'm just too glad I'm
I'm
too lazy to do real projects that require all this stuff because I would probably be taking out a credit card worth of loans to fucking buy Milwaukee shit.
um,
I looked at
the
the just the box. I was like, oh shit! But this is going to
yeah,
be something like over the next five
Yeah,
to 10 years.
yeah.
Build the priority
yeah.
things little by
Mm-hmm.
little, and then in a decade, I've got everything that I could possibly want.
The biggest thing that gets people going to M18 stuff, not M18, to go into M12 stuff is the fact that yeah, looking at toolbox for US General, very
Hmm.
good. Is that with the smaller batteries in it, a M12 cordless ratchet is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
It's the same profile that you would get from an air ratchet. Other brands like DeWalt, Cobalt, um,
They have that
what have
massive
you,
fucking square battery on the bottom
you
of it.
have a massive full-size battery hanging off the back of your cordless ratchet. So if a cordless ratchet is a big priority to you, I would, and if you're going to be working on the car, I would say it is because there's nothing more annoying than sitting there and manually ratcheting something away.
Something like this.
Um, is one of those guys. And modern ones, they make those do come in fuels now because that one that he's showing is brushed. It's a brushed motor. They make brushless ones now, and they also make their high speeds. Those are two different ones. Their high speed is a little bit better.
So like, look at this picture, but
Not
imagine
expensive.
having a massive box battery on this instead of a normal
Yeah.
battery.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't have that kind of clearance on it if you had
Yeah.
if you had one of the other brands and their
My
full size
my
batteries.
like I said, my mentality is anything that I would use an M18 for, I would rather use an air tool for. Granted, that's all mechanical stuff. Like I understand that in the construction world, M18 has a niche, and that makes a lot more
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
I just was never in that niche, so I didn't need it. Like I didn't need a bandsaw, or I didn't need to cut planks of wood. And in some cases, maybe an M18 is better than a compressor. I don't know, or a plug-in bandsaw.
Okay. But yeah, like M12 is going to be good enough for basically anything I'm going to be doing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're gonna get all your cordless tools, and they're gonna be a good size. They're gonna be lighter. You're not gonna be lugging around a big old battery with you. Especially if
Then
you just want to throw it into a bag or something real quick to, like Java was saying, if you have to go up into the attic for something or
yeah.
go back outside in your backyard for something, you can just throw your tools in there and throw the little drill gun in there that can do basically everything and not have to worry about it.
And I feel obligated to mention the industry standard new fucking person toolbox, the U.S. General Mechanics cart.
Yep.
This is what I started with, and nearly every fucking mechanic I've ever known has had one of these at some point. And some people have even bought them even after they got a Snap-on box because they wanted a little tool cart to take over to the like the engine guys love these things. Whenever they tear down an engine, they take all their little tools, they put them in, they take them out of their big toolbox, put them in their little toolbox, and wheel because their main work toolbox is now this 128-inch walled monstrosity that they can't maneuver around anything. So
God,
then they have to
Tony's
buy a
box was so big.
yeah,
When
so
I
they need to
went
buy
to
a little
visit them,
toolbox for their big toolbox, and so that they come like full circle to where like the new guy in the hangar has this tiny toolbox, and then the old guy who's making like triple what he makes also has this tiny toolbox because he needs to be able to get to like underneath a wing or something. But these are great because you have underneath storage, the top part pops up. You can drop screwdrivers through these little holes. It's very compact. This little table folds out. They're like the stereotypical starter toolbox, and even if you graduate to a big boy toolbox, you can still use these as a tool cart. So, or you give them to your
I
kid or
got
something. I'll be right back. I gotta go piss
there's
again.
you're fine. There's also one of these. It's actually U.S. General, and I realize it's probably the same company that makes the one that they sell at Lowe's at Cobalt that they got for cheap because employee discount and Black Friday. Um, it's a lot smaller than that, but it's worked out pretty good. And that bottom is great because you can put bulkier tools down there, or you can put all of your fluids and liquids and stuff for like your windshield wiper fluid or whatever, something bigger down there. Your brake cleaner. I got my brake cleaner down there. I got all my fluids down there. I got some flush stuff in there. I got like fluid extractors and cleaning rags, all kinds of stuff in there. I don't exactly have a big garage, but it's nice having that all right there in that little one. Um, but yeah, I mean stuff like that box is specifically for as it says, a mechanics cart. So mechanics will put, all their most used tools in there, and they will wheel around even to just another side of their vehicle, so they don't have to walk back to their box to get it. Because mechanics are, these days, not in the case of like Java, being a aircraft mechanic, but like vehicle mechanics are paid flat rate per job. So they want everything right there so they can get it as quickly as possible and not have to walk 15 steps back to their box. But they can still roll to, say, the other side of the shop if they have to help one of their coworkers with something. But yeah, definitely I would say a U.S. General bigger box. They make a lot of stuff. If you walk into a Harbor Freight, go poking around at some of their boxes and see if any of them stand out to you.
Yeah.
And they come in a bunch of different colors.
Oh, are
Okay.
we talking about where to go find a toolbox?
Yeah, I'm saying just, I would probably say U.S. General. They make
Where
pretty good
where are you from again?
full-size
Dino,
boxes.
just general area, not specific. Like
I'm in
state.
Maryland.
It's Maryland. Okay.
Yeah, I'm near Annapolis.
See, let me see if they have any of these near you. This is the company that I got my whole Mac box from.
Hmm.
What's MT is Maryland?
Yeah.
MD. Yeah.
Oof, no, maybe not.
No, no Maryland.
What's close to Maryland? Well, Maryland's tiny though. Is it like Virginia's close to Maryland?
Virginia. We're right. Yeah, we're right next to Virginia.
What's the
But
closest town to
Northern
Virginia?
Virginia. So, yeah, Fredericksburg is probably going to be the closest, and it's not that close. I mean, it'd be a few hours drive. It'd be like, yeah, probably a couple hours if I don't have traffic.
These guys will deliver to you as well. Northern Tool will, because I bought mine off. I bought mine online and they opened up a Northern Tool like a couple months later, which is kind of funny to me. But
Yeah,
Just,
so it's like a 2 hour drive. So I could go down if I really needed to put eyes on.
yeah.
The my issue is I'm like, well, putting eyes on, I might not even know what I'm like.
Looking at.
Yeah, great, I can look at it, but I don't know if it's really good for
Now,
me or not.
it can lead to some poor buying habits if you do. But if you there's a YouTube channel I watch, and you see me post their videos fairly frequently. Was it like tool tour or some toolbox tour or something like that? Where he goes around and he visits with a bunch of mechanics and literally just talk about their tools,
yeah, basically what we
and
just
what
did for
they
the last
do.
3 hours.
Basically, yeah, except he's going around talking to individual mechanics about everything they use and what they work on. So it gets you a good idea of what people like to use, what they don't like to use. Of course, some people agree or disagree about certain things. Like, you'll see some mechanics who love using their Icon Universal impacts, and then you'll have other mechanics who say, "Hell no, I had one blow up on me."
It's like me
So
with
you get
Makita
some
versus Milwaukee. I'm sure some people swear by
exactly.
Makita.
The toolbox video that he just did with one of Red Bull's professional motorcycle exhibitors, uh, he uses all Makita because I think he said it's what team? I think he said it was what the Red Bull team uses. They all used Makita tools, and he's like, if it's good enough for the team, it's good enough for me. So he uses all Makita stuff.
Another option, maybe not the most affordable option, is a company called Redbox.
Ooh,
I
ooh.
saw these guys at Oshkosh, and I was super stoked about it. And my company, of course, said they put money aside to buy one and never did. But they make like literally one stop shop solutions for stuff. So um, they have like pre cut foam. It's already pre laid out. Everything's already there. They make them for specific industries, electricians, avionics, whatever. Um, so it's that's another option. There's a couple places that do this type of stuff. These are so cool. We have these at work now. They're kind of chintzy. I don't know if they're worth it the price. Ours are Snap-on ones because they're mill. But this as a concept is fucking cool. I think Packout is starting to do this. I think they just came out with a bottom section with pull-out drawers, which is awesome. if they don't. But these types of cases are cool. I really like these. This is what I originally wanted to buy, but the Snap-on version of this is specifically made for the military, and it's like $1,000 and I was just not buying that. But everybody's trying to get in on the pack out game now. But pack out came first and did it best, in my opinion.
Tough Built probably gets the closest.
Yeah, I would say if you're, okay, if you have tools and you don't want to dive headfirst into the pack out game, or you don't have a need for a pack out, and you're looking for a toolbox, it really depends on how many tools you have. That's where I go with it, because this is great for just your starter shit, but you will outgrow this very fast, in my opinion, like within a year, especially if you're a professional mechanic. But this is pretty good. You got plenty of drawer space. It's just not going to hold all the stuff you need. So, like, if you have a workbench and you have all your power tools and shit on a workbench, or you're not putting it in here, cool. If I don't know, I would want something a little bit bigger than this. I started with this, of course, and I think I upgraded within less than a year, probably like 7 months.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is I'm not going to have more than what that'll hold probably for years.
Yeah.
But at some point I will, right? Like my plan is to basically build this list over a decade.
Right.
But
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I
okay,
built
well
this
if you have
list.
but if you have a box and like 3/4 of it's empty, so what?
Yeah.
Because all it's going to do is it's going to be in my garage, and it might be wheeled from one part of the garage to the other, which I can't even do right. I can't even fit it in my garage right now because I've got to get all the kids' crap out of there. But that aside, like I'm not. I don't need pack out because I'm not going to be traveling around with these things. Literally like a small tool bag for go bring stuff up at to one of the rooms.
And bag that comes with the power tool.
Yeah. So I like you mentioned the 56-inch box is like, yeah, you can fit everything you need. It's the one place where you can put all of your tools that you're going to have for whatever job. And then I just go over there, load up whatever I need in the bag, and if I need to go somewhere with it. But then everything is just in that place.
I would say 56-inch box is like your end goal. Like that's your retirement box.
Okay.
Like you don't need, like, how do I put this? 56 is not the ideal size. It is the biggest size that is still manageable. That's how I would put that, because 56-inch fit all the tools that I had, and I could still wheel it around the hangar. Now, there are guys that had more tools than me, and there are guys that had bigger toolboxes than me, 128-inch boxes, right? The problem you get with those boxes is that they get tall enough and long enough is that if you have an airplane hangar and there are 6 fucking airplanes in the hangar, and the distance between like wingtip to fuselage of some of these airplanes is like a foot or less, you can't maneuver your box around anymore. And so then these guys became full circle where they would go out and buy tool carts that were more maneuverable, and then they would load the tools under their cart, and then like it was almost like, why did you know what I mean? Like they had like this almost like office, but not an office. They'd build like this little like toolbox fortress in like a corner of the fucking hangar, and then they would have to have like a smaller tool cart. And it was funny because the guys who just started out were buying the same tool carts that the guys who had been there 20 fucking years were buying, because they had grown too big. This is particularly
Like, I mean, there may be a case to say, hey, this is $300, right? So if this is going to last for 5 years at least,
I don't know about that.
That's great. And then you kind of learn, okay, this is what I really want in terms of drawers, organization, all that other stuff. Then go buy the bigger one, even if you still don't have enough to fill it up.
Yeah.
But you're like, I've got an idea of how much I'm going to actually need.
Actually, I mean, if we got time, let's look through some of these real quick, because this is great. I think this is a little small, in my personal opinion. But again, I'm probably thinking a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this thing's going to sit in the garage. Yeah. Is really what it's going to do, and it might wheel around the garage. It's a 2-car garage, and half of it's already consumed by a weight rack. So it's not going to be going anywhere, and it's not going to,
Ho.
What I'm trying to spell. Oh, it's got this stupid F12 thing going on. I just want to compare prices. That's not. That's not it.
Gun cabinets?
H2 Pro is what I got. Oh my god. Oh, that's a side cabinet. It's a lot of money for a fucking box.
That is a lot of money for a box.
I mean, it's not
There's a
Snap-on money, but
72.
it's a lot of money for a box.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I would almost go US General.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
for
I'll suffer drawers that are squeaking and grating and not very smooth for not having to spend $1,000 on a box.
the U.S. General boxes, especially some of the better ones, are. I probably would not buy any of the boxes that you run into at Lowe's if you're being anywhere near being serious. Although we do have one Cobalt that is one of the nicer ones that it has a hutch on top and it has the the drawers on the bottom.
this
That's the
Yeah.
one I bought. That is identical to the U.S. General ones that are laid out the same way. Not that one, but U.S. General has one that is laid out exactly the same way.
this one.
That one. I believe they are both made by the same manufacturer. Whenever I've gone into Harbor Freight, I looked at them a couple of times. I'm like, these are the exact same box. It is a little small, especially because you don't have that thicker drawer, and you don't have the second row. It's also shallower, so the Harbor Freight the Harbor Freight box that has the bigger drawer is deeper. It's yeah, go back.
This one?
Yes,
Or this one? This
that
one.
one.
Yeah, it's got
That
that
is a
bigger
little
bottom
bit
drawer.
deep. It's got a bigger bottom drawer. It's got the other drawer. It's also deeper, so it's a little bit wider from front to back. That one's like 2 feet from front to back, and then the Cobalt one is, what's it say, 30 something inches, 35 inches. Yes, you're losing some space back there. It's not quite 2 feet. It's a little bit smaller.
So I've never been in Lowe's and even paid attention to the toolboxes. So I mean, I've been in Lowe's. I never bothered looking. I'm like, I don't need a toolbox, so why would I look at these? So I don't really know what they have available. I'm just kind of taking a perusement. I know some guys who had Craftsman boxes. Yeah.
I think that is the Cobalt box that I'm seeing on display back by Pro. That blue one with the blue. Go up, go up, go up. That one that's about $500. They're $600. Yeah, that one. Yeah, they have one of those that has the top and the bottom on display. Yeah, that whole thing is about $1,000 for both.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
The only issue I have with this, I like top space, like a top working area, like a fucking thing I can put things on and disassemble. Like if you got to work on a carburetor, like I want a tools like workspace, essentially. Most people just have a table for that, right? So, but for me, my table is the top of my toolbox. I guess I should mention this. This is entirely arbitrary. I'm 5'9". The Homac 56-inch toolbox is apparently the sweet spot of height for people to just come over and lean on. And I would have this constant problem where my toolbox is right near the entrance door of the hangar, and apparently it was just the right size that all the managers would come by. They have their little fucking powwow on top of my toolbox. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. This is my toolbox. I don't care if it's the perfect height to lean on. Go find a fucking office and do your little turnover in there. But everybody, even the people who had like Snap-ons, they would come over and they would lean on my toolbox. They're like, oh, this is like the perfect height. I'm like, I don't know why, but it was like the perfect height for it. But do with that what you will. It's not worth buying a $2,000 toolbox for. But like I said, I got mine on sale, and then I got it further discounted because I didn't have to pay for shipping. So I did it because they were having like this whatever like Memorial Day sale or something whenever I bought it. So they were like half off or some shit. I don't remember. And I bought it, and then they delivered it, and I paid like $600 in shipping, and then I got that for free. So like I think I paid $1,200 for my box, and then I got $600 off of that. So I ended up paying $600 for like a $2,000 box. So it went out great for me. But yeah, this is great. The only thing that I don't like about this, it's a mixed blessing. The top opens so you can put stuff in there, but I'd like to have the top as a workspace. So I would put like some type of, like my toolbox has butcher's block on top of it. So I would, if I was buying this, I would be looking for like some type of table or something, because I can't put a vise on this. You know what I mean?
No.
I can't mount a vise to this. So, but this is okay. Like, it's weird for me because in my head, it's hard for me to like go back to when I just had the basics. So I'm like looking at this, I'm like, this isn't enough space. But in my head, I have all of these tools instead of just these tools. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm having a hard time like trying to just like visually give up all of the shit that I've accumulated over 15 years of fucking doing this job. So, well, I guess 10 of me having to buy my own stuff. But yeah, this is the absolute like stereotypical starter box. Everyone I have ever seen start in aviation has either bought a Snap-on right off the bat like a fucking idiot because they don't know if they're going to stay in the fucking career, or they buy a US General and then a year later they buy a Snap-on box. So like all of our new guys bought Snap-on, but that was because we got a new Snap-on guy and he realized he was way behind the 8 ball in terms of Matco. So he came into the fucking hangar on day shift and he knew that we had just hired a bunch of kids fresh out of the Marine Corps, and like they had all been working there for maybe like 6 to like maybe 7 months, not even. And he went in, he's like, I'll give you guys $1,500 for your fucking this US General toolbox. He's like, I'll give you $1,500 for that. And those kids are like, okay, let me go 14 grand into debt with a Matco box or a Snap-on box. And it's just like, don't get me wrong.
What the fuck are you kids doing?
Like, if you're still doing the job 10 years later, absolutely that Snap-on box is worth it. And I now 10 years later wish I would have bought a Snap-on box. When I was doing that job 10 years ago, I'm like, I'll do this for 3 years, get my pilot's license, and go fly. That didn't work out. So now I have a good enough compromise, and I will probably email Homac and be like, please give me more drawers. Yeah, this is fine to start with, and you may never grow out of this. You know, if you do grow out of this, then you have a great little tool cart to wheel around. So,
yeah, as a toolbox I have, I did not pay $100 when I bought
yeah,
it.
it's what, 270 right, 280 right now, and it is also 280 at fucking Lowe's, but it's discounted right now.
It's on sale right now.
So
okay,
they usually hover around the
right
$200 range. Yeah, it depends on the color and if that color is in stock at your store. Yeah, so it's normally about $250. And sometimes they'll sit around at your store, at your local store for a certain number of times.
These
it's
are
just because they're different colors.
Same, but they're different.
The same box, but they're different colors. It has to do with whether or not they're stocked at your store.
Okay. Yeah, I would take, if it was me, I would take the deeper drawer version, because I would rather have more drawers than less drawers. That's just me. I might even go so far as to buy one of these, obviously, but then you will not have the storage space down here for whatever you want.
Fluids.
So,
I put fluids and shit.
Yeah, that's what I do. Oh, that's the other thing. If you've never heard of it, I'm sure you have. This stuff. It's like WD-40 but better.
Okay.
It's probably super bad for you, but it works. This is like
Brake Clean.
Yeah, it's like Brake Clean but better. This is like I would actually like. This is probably the only stuff I would use. It smells a little weird, but it's fine. The oil that creeps. We had this old bald guy, Larry, in my job when I first started, and he would have this saying. He would just be like, "Don't spoil it, croil it," and like I don't know if he heard that like the 50s or something, but it stuck with me, and I've always exclusively used croil. So that would be my version I would buy instead of WD-40 is croil. But yep, it used to be called Aero Croil, but now it's just called croil.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Again, I don't know if it's safe, so don't go spraying it on like your raw hand like I did. I would probably use gloves now.
Don't hose
Don't use
down my
brake
kids
clean
with
for
it.
that
Yeah,
either.
don't hose down your kids with it, but it is very effective, and the fact that it's very effective probably means it's very bad for you. So
Okay.
I was trying to use Simple Green. I would highly recommend for like cleaning engine bays and stuff
yeah,
because it'll
Simple Green also
it's
works great for stripping acrylic paint off of Warhammer 40k minis.
it's pretty good for cleaning most types of grease, oil, and shit you'll have in your engine bay. But it also will not kill the plastics and other rubber materials in the car. Um, but like Simple Green, it's great. It's not that bad for you. It's not that bad generally. I was using it to try and clean a small oil spill off of the concrete, and it's like, oh, it's not working very well. I go grab the brake clean. Oh, yep, that worked.
I actually used to use Simple Green to clean airplanes, like
Oh,
F-15s. Like I used to use Simple Green on that. We weren't allowed to
was
have
that
it. We would
was
smuggle it in.
oh, I was gonna say, was that issue? Did they
No, no, we
supply
would
that?
absolutely like, especially once I got stationed stateside and we had access to it, we would literally just go to like Walmart, buy Simple Green, and bring it into work, and then clean the planes with the fucking Simple Green, and like hope you didn't get caught. Be clever about it.
Be clever about it. Hey, Airman, what you got
I
there?
think we explicitly got banned
Me?
from using it. Like we were explicitly told not to use Simple Green, and we did it anyway because it still worked. It worked
Why?
so well. I think it ate up the paint if you did it often enough.
Yeah.
Like it would literally start removing layers of paint, and they were. We did a lot of dumb shit. We did one where somebody brought in a literal. They came in over the weekend. They did super sneaky on a weekend that they knew that we weren't there. Like you know how like the entire engine section of the F-15 is like raw titanium. They brought in a fucking powered buffer in like metal buffing stuff and buffed that bitch shine like mirror shine, and it caused such a fucking ruckus because like it was like a fait accompli. Like they did it over a weekend. Nobody saw it with them. They did it, and like contrary to popular belief, you can kind of just walk out on the flight line whenever you want, as long as you have an access badge. It's not like anybody's sitting there checking your badge. You just walk out there. If the cops don't stop you, they're not going to stop you, and the cops don't care. Like they don't know who's supposed to be on the flight line. As long as you act like you belong there, they're probably not going to fucking pull you over. Anyway, let's not talk about OPSEC shit. This dude buffed his fucking shit, and then they went up to do dogfighting, and every pilot who flew that fucking airplane hated it because it was so fucking shiny that they were like clearly obvious in a dogfight. And it got to the point where somebody literally came in and was just like, "You have to dirty this plane up; it's too clean." And I was just like, imagine being told your plane's too clean. But yeah,
It looked great on the on a show jet.
yeah.
But
No, we would definitely use Simple Green on wheels too because they're like this white enamel paint, and it is like it just absorbs brake dust like it's nobody's fucking business. And like I have that problem with my airplane now, where it was so like greased up, and then I ended up using a scrubby pad to try to fucking clean it off, and hopefully, it's just there's a whole hidden art to it that we don't have to get into. But yeah, I would start with the U.S. General box, the bigger version, and that should probably work for you for a while. Um, and especially if you have already got a Pelican case, that combined with the Pelican case should cover you for literally years. Um, Especially if you get the foam cutouts for the Pelican case. If you do find your Pelican case, let me know what model number it is, and I'll try to find the company that did my stuff, and that way you can
Okay.
decide if it's worth it for your stuff. I think mine total came out to like 100-ish, $120 for all of the foam trays for my case, and that was with because I paid extra to have them handles cut into them because they gave you the option. You could either have handles cut into it or they could thread um, rope, so you could pull rope up, so you would have more foam
Okay.
space. So I went with the handles. So and then I went with the MDF backer. So yeah, I'll see if I can find that after we get off.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd definitely be wanting the MDF backer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably that. I like that solution because
Yeah.
then I've got, I can bring the Pelican case down. It's literally downstairs on my DCS computer as a side table for mouse and keyboard.
some people have calculus books. You have the Pelican case.
Uh, okay,
Oh, that
cool. So I've got my notes, and
Mhm.
then yeah, if you send me the big lists
Yeah.
that you've built on Amazon, that would be huge. Jabba, dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, no
You
worries.
spent 4 hours with me, man. That's like a huge amount of time. No, I like like you.
I didn't anticipate. That's why I
You're
was like,
full
at first I was gonna be
optimism.
like, this is probably gonna take an hour, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna yap a lot. I was like, well, we better make it 2 to be safe. 4 hours later.
No, but like seriously, man, this is huge. I took a bunch of notes
Yeah.
myself, and like just a lot of the random tidbits that you mentioned are things that I would never know.
Right.
So I really appreciate it, and I recognize like, dude, you spent 4 hours. Like you could have been doing whatever the heck you want. You could have been sleeping. So
No, it's fine.
I really appreciate it,
It's
man.
only
I
like
like
9 p.m.
seriously.
here, so it's fine. I'm ahead of you, like way ahead of you in time. So
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah, no, it's no biggie. It's just that I would hate to see you make the same mistakes that I've paid money to make. So, and you can't justify it by saying you do it for a living. So, but yeah, I don't know. A lot of it is just like, it's just cumulative years of experience. So it's like a lot of times this is just like getting somebody into War Thunder. Unfortunately, it's just like if I could do it all again, this is how I would do it.